morning, everyone. We're going to call this DPS zoning portion of the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. All right, everybody, we get started. Thank you. Good morning again. DPS zoning portion of the meeting. Madam Chair, call the roll. Here. Here.
House Jones, McCormick.
Present.
Spencer. Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 234-2024 by Council Member House Jones, an ordinance changing the use, area, and height districts of parcels of land west of Crawford Road between Wade Park Avenue and Kidmore Avenue and adding an urban form overlay district to the south side of Wade Park, MC 2674. Good morning, Mrs. Leonard, Mr. Bay. How are you?
Good morning.
Who's presenting this morning?
Xavier.
All right. You just turned it all over to Xavier, huh? Okay. All right. We'll take it. Yes. Here you go. This is only a portion. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Xavier Bay. I'm a city planner with the zoning section of city planning. So today, this map change is, we're taking this out because we're correcting a split zoning issue, which is enabling a proposed multifamily light tech development in the Ward 7. This also is to promote the diversity of housing typologies. And so here's a location map for you, just showing you we're just west of MLK Jr. Drive within Ward 7 and the Huff neighborhood right at the intersection of Wade Park and Crawford Avenue. And so here's the current zoning. You can see what I mentioned about the split zoning issue here, where there's general retail, local retail, multifamily, and two-family zoning districts on this one site. And so you could also see some of the contextual zoning around here, multifamily, general retail, two-family. And so the proposed zoning here is limited retail, G2 business district, and an urban form overlay along Wade Park Avenue. You can see there's also an existing 5-foot specific map setback along Crawford Road. And so this existing conditions here just kind of gives you an aerial view of some of the contextual multifamily, like I mentioned with the zoning previously. Yep, you can see some of the two-family, three-family residences there to the west. Here's some of the closer look at the existing context. And so this neighborhood has some blight, some vacancy, but it also has some reinvestment that has been occurring in the early 2000s, as you can see with some of the newer houses there in the bottom right photo at East 92nd and Wade Park. And so here's a site plan just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with the future plans of the site. So multiple buildings are proposed, but there's an apartment complex, a food hall, market, and another apartment with some more mixed-use retail uses along Crawford Avenue, as well as some townhomes. And so this really just kind of gives you the image of the potential for the lot right now. The zoning, as it's split zoning, two-family would being part of that split zoning would restrict a lot of this potential to occur. Oh, okay, there it is. Sorry, technical difficulty here. Looks like this last slide is loading up. Okay, there we go. And so this is the last slide I have, just recapping the proposed zoning as limited retail, business G2, and the urban form overlay. The urban form overlay is really to encourage a better walkability experience as you're going along Wade Park Avenue, more vibrant walking experience. The limited retail business allows for the mixed use project to occur on this site. And that's all I have for you.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for the thorough presentation as usual. We'll now open up the zoning portion of the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed in for public comment? No, y'all.
Last time we signed in, we weren't
Oh, no,
supposed to.
I didn't. I didn't sign anybody in.
You still sign all this stuff?
No.
Got it. Well, everyone who signed up, Madam Clerk, is not here for 234. Did we receive any written communications for public comment? Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. Before we go to the committee, I believe Councilwoman House Jones asked us to schedule this, and so just so I'm clear, she is still fully supportive of this piece, correct?
Correct.
All right. Yes, I recall she did send an email asking us to make sure asked us, can we get this scheduled as soon as possible, because she wanted to get it moving. So we wanted to take care of that request for her. All right. We'll open up to the committee for questions. Any questions from the committee? Ordinance number 234-2024 stands approved. Where is it at? Okay, thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Zoning portion of the meeting is closed. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for our general portion of DPS.
Hairston?
Here.
Santana? Parrish?
Here.
House Jones, McCormick?
Present.
Spencer? Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are going to start with ordinance number 340, United Way, Legal Aid, come on up. Ordinance number 340-2024 by Councilmembers Harrison and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more agreements with United Way of Greater Cleveland and the lead partner organization to implement a program to provide access to legal services for covered individuals in eviction proceedings under Section 375.12 of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, Legal Representation in Housing Corps. Good morning, Mr. Surratt. Good morning.
Good morning, Ken Surratt here,
Yes.
joined by Melanie Shakarian from
Good morning,
Legal
Melanie.
Aid, as well. I will just say some brief remarks and kick it over to Melanie, who can tell you more about it. I believe you all are familiar with this.
Yes.
We met in caucus, a month or so ago to share, and we, as contractually obligated, we provided in January the latest evaluation report from our independent evaluator, Stout, with you, but continued what we feel is success in the community, making sure that we are increasing housing stability here within the city of Cleveland. We know that all the negative impacts when people are moving all the time, and so this was designed as a way to help keep people stable, for children to be stable so they can go to school, so that people can put that address down on that job application and know that's where they're going to be. So I'll just turn it over to Melanie, who does have a presentation to walk through to provide more of the statistics and updates.
Thank you. And again, since we've had this in caucus, we are very familiar, so you can hit the high points of the presentation. We don't necessarily have to go through all the small nuances.
For sure.
If the
Thank
committee
you.
would like. All right.
Thank you, Chairman. And just to be clear, this also is for this current year's contract. What we talked about in caucus was looking to next year, and we are really grateful for the increase in support that you're giving us as we look to the upcoming year. And just to hit the high points, a reminder that this council really is looked to nationwide for your leadership on these housing stability issues, and we're so grateful for that. And we're so proud of the relationship that we have with council. As you legislated in 2019, we have more than exceeded what the expectations were from 2019. And we continue to do the outreach, the docket screening, working very closely with Cleveland Housing Court to make sure accessibility is possible for all folks who are eligible for this. And last year, we helped in excess of 10,000 people. 5,300 of those were Cleveland residents who asserted their right to counsel in 1,470 housing cases. So this contract that you're approving today is, of course, for this year, and we look forward to showing you even better results with the increased funds that you've promised also for next year. But we're happy to entertain any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you. We'll open it up to the committee for any questions. Any questions from the committee? Anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, you guys do great work, and I really appreciate the work that you guys do. I am an area where we have tons of evictions, so our numbers are pretty high. I guess I would be curious through the chair, Melanie, and maybe Ken, if you could answer that. With all the work that you guys are doing, what programs are you partnering with to help people get out of this situation, right? And I'm sure you get, through the chair to Melanie, you guys get reoccurring cases with the same families over and over again? I'm not sure if that's the case.
Thank you. Through the chair, I will say rarely are there those repeat cases. What we have identified, this is a right to counsel in eviction, not a right to counsel for conditions matters, right, in homes. So what we have identified over these initial years is the number of people who have faced unhealthy housing conditions that we learn about through the eviction process. So we've secured separate private philanthropy focused on tenants' rights issues, especially conditions cases, and we're working with numerous law firms in Cleveland and private attorneys to team up with legal aid to litigate these conditions cases and hold bad actor landlords accountable, folks who are not keeping their properties rentable effectively. I'm going to let Ken, through the chair, comment further on other tenants' rights efforts that are happening now.
Sure. We are currently, through the chair, seeking input in creative ways that we can have tenants organize and address these bad actor landlords in particular, and make sure that they do assert their rights, know what their rights are in the first place, and assert. And we feel United Way can be a great, 211 specifically, could be a great way to kind of field those calls. So, through 211, we are constantly trying to help people with whatever housing issues that they may have with the various community partners that are out there, those that have rental assistance or home repair funds or whatever it could be, to make sure that your residents are housed stably.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question, because oftentimes, you wonder, if they found their way here this time, will they find their way here back again, right? And so what resources are being provided to them? I know the court has, I don't know if they're called social workers or not. Are they called social workers?
Housing court specialist.
Housing court specialists, okay. And I know they do assist families and folks who come in with resources, trying to point them in a different direction, connect them with resources. I know for sure when they have hoarding cases, right? I've gotten a call about those in the neighborhood. So that's one thing maybe we can talk to the housing court as well, just if they are in need of additional resources, to make sure that they can assist people, handhold a little bit more along the way as well. All right. Any further questions from the committee? All right. Last thing, we brought it up at caucus about when we have nuisance homes and someone files for eviction and they are technically qualified under the program to receive support. Have we done any more digging on that situation that was raised at the caucus?
No, Chairman, those were very, very good questions, and we don't do a merit screen when people come. This is a right to counsel, but if there is grounds for somebody to be evicted, we're counseling that individual through that case to assure that they move out in a timely manner, that there's other resources available to make sure that they can find new housing. But that's all part of the process, right? So I think it's a 3 strikes nuisance law right now in Cleveland, where if there's multiple calls, that could be grounds for eviction. And so we would be counseling that tenant, this is what the laws are and what the rules are, and that's part of the process.
Sure, I appreciate that. As we continue to go through this program, we really should all put our heads together. As you heard from you heard from more than 1 or 2 council members in that room who shared concern about when we have a nuisance house and the landlord goes to, remove them from the property, and they have representation now, and so it delays, it causes issues when this house has been part of shootings, drug activity, other types of violence. So, I know that we can work together to find a way to address that, because what we don't want to see is what we've shared on many occasions, that we are providing funds to support a problem tenant, right? It's not fair to those who live on the street, particularly those who are legacy long-term residents on the street who has had to endure, the issues of these issues from folks, on the street, all right? And then we're jumping in to provide resources for representation. Well, that can be a problem, right? Mm-hmm. And so, again, as we go along, we can work through that and figure out a way to better address those.
We've had very open and honest communications with all of the city council members, Chair, as this is launched, and answered questions on
Yes.
those case-by-case bases. And truthfully, we haven't heard of one of those type of situations yet, but we hope that council members feel very comfortable reaching out to us when they are concerned or hear something from residents.
Sure.
Because we can definitely put our heads together and talk about that, but we haven't seen that particular issue yet, so.
Gotcha. And as I narrated, I had one in my ward. There was a murder at the house, and it took forever for these individuals to get them out of the house, and had been problems before they've received letters from the Sergeant Chanko when she was here, who did their nuisance letters,
Oh.
right? And so there were problems at this house, but we, provided the representation as, if they, I get it, right? But while they were there during the period, they caused even more problems, right? So we won't belabor the point here, but we'll talk through
Yeah.
it further. All right?
Thank you.
See no further questions. Ordinance number 340-2024 stands approved. You all have a good day. Thank you. Go, sir. Always a pleasure. All right, capital projects, come on up here. Here you go. Is your folks from the county here? Oh, okay, I see one here, two here.
Which one are we going first?
The marginal,
Marginal?
yeah.
Thank you, Clerk.
Good morning.
Do we, 227 on there, do we have something for that or no? 227? Ordinance number 227, did you receive anything for that? Probably not.
Presentation again?
It's the same one from Municipal Services?
Correct.
I don't know. Is it a map? Okay. That's fine.
Parcel map.
We can maybe. Okay, it's on the tablets? All right, got it, thank you. All right. Ordinance number 227-2024 by council members McCormick, Harrison, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing directors of capital projects, port control, and/or public works to enter into one or more agreements with Cuyahoga County and Cleveland Metro Parks to construct an all-purpose trail on the north side of North Marginal Road, including a maintenance and repair agreement with the Metro Parks for a term of not to exceed 20 years, with 5 20-year options to renew, exercisably by the Metro Parks, authorizing one or more submerged land leases with the state of Ohio and future land leases, sub-leases for a term up to 99 years with 2 50-year options to renew, exercisable by the appropriate director, and to replace or otherwise adjust existing adjacent submerged land leases and subleases, authorizing one or more encroachment permits to the county, authorizing acquisition of real property easements and work agreements, conveyance of temporary deeds of easements, and authorizing any other agreements to effectuate this ordinance. All right.
All right, let's get in it.
Director, Assistant Director.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
To the chair, to the committee. I'm looking to enter into this agreement with the county to be their partner in constructing this North Marginal Road connector from East 55th Street to East 9th Street. Our part of this partnership is a not-to-exceed amount of $130,000. And this will allow us to enter into one or more, assist us in entering into one or more submerged land leases with the state of Ohio and future subleases for the submerged land within the project area. And before I get into any detail of just reading what's here, I'll let Katie give some detail, or even Suzanne. Commissioner
Sure.
Suzanne.
Good morning. Let me just give a little summary, and then I'll have Katie Moore from MOCAP, our special projects manager from MOCAP, give you a little bit more detail. So this project has been in the works for many years to improve the stretch of North Marginal from East 9th to East 55th. It's a heavily used pedestrian way, but it currently offers little amenities. There's no lighting. There are no sidewalks, so these improvements would create a much better pedestrian experience. There is currently Metro Parks operates a trail from East 55th out to University Circle. So effectively, adding this connection would make a trail connection from downtown all the way out to University Circle. Cuyahoga County will construct 2.7 miles of all-purpose trail along the north side of North Marginal from East 9th to East 55th. Metro Parks will maintain the trail upon its completion, and the legislation does authorize the city, the Director of Mayor's Office of Capital Projects, to enter into a three-party agreement with Cuyahoga County and Metro Parks, defining the roles and responsibilities of the parties for design, construction, and maintenance. The affected properties are under the jurisdiction of Port Control and Public Works, and so the county is seeking temporary easements for Lakefront Airport and also for various public works properties that are currently leased to others, including Lakeside Yacht Club, Forest City Yacht Club, and Sailing Inc. The temporary easements are for grading, driveway replacement, fence and gate construction, et cetera. And finally, the city will, as Assistant Director Chambers mentioned, contribute $130,000 to the project. The total project budget is over $13 million. And I do have, as I mentioned, Katie Moore is here who can go into more detail. And we also have John, who's from Port Control, to answer any questions that you might have related to the submerged land leases that are authorized under the legislation as well. Thank you.
Good morning. Katie Moore. I'm with Capital Projects as Special Projects Manager. To describe the project a little bit more, this is a 10-foot multi-purpose path along the north side of North Marginal from 55th, where the current trail ends, all the way to East 9th here in downtown. This project is fully within the right-of-way, the current right-of-way for North Marginal, and it will require the road to be shifted slightly to the south, the center line of the road, so the road will also be resurfaced as part of this project. There is one point of the project where the trail goes down to 8 feet wide at a pinch point by some of the private properties that it's going past by the yacht clubs. And we're very excited that it will include the lighting and the other amenities for trails. Right now there is a large portion that's not lit at all, and it will be the lighting that's provided for the road, but it will be at a much higher standard than what's currently there. And I can take any questions about the project as well. That's a brief overview.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else want to add anything? We're good? All right, just to the committee members, and for those who are at home, we added the presentation, the map from Municipal Services onto the screen. That way they can kind of get an idea of where the boundaries are from 9th Street up to East 55th Street, correct? All right. Any questions from the committee? Yeah, I think it's going to be good. Councilman Harsh.
Through the chair to whoever wants to answer, what's the reason for having 5 20-year renewable maintenance leases or agreements with the county, but 2 50-year terms with the state? Why stagger them that way?
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes.
Okay, so the 20-year was the preference of Cleveland Metro Parks, so that as we see how the trail maintenance occurs over time, they can better understand what the needs are related to the trail. So they asked for the 20 years with 5 renewals. And the completely separate process of submerged land leases, I don't know if John wants to take this one,
John?
for the way that it relates to our master lease agreement.
To the chair, to the councilman. I mean, generally speaking, on submerged land lease, it's, the longer the better the term. It gives us kind of control over the property as long as possible, and then typically you will then sublease that to whatever entity you want to use it. And so, in theory, if we had the longer term on the submerged land lease, and then you wanted to go with someone else beyond Metro Parks, or if that didn't work out, you could enter into a consent to sublease with someone else, or an operating agreement.
Through the chair, if not the Metro Parks, who would be a potential other partner for that if they decide in 20 years that they're not interested in maintaining this? who is the other? I mean, the city, obviously, but is there a third party available?
Yeah, ultimately, the only options that we discussed with the county was the city doing it or Metro Parks because they have the adjacent trail and I'm sorry, through the chair to the councilman, because they have the adjacent trail. So it made logical sense to continue our agreement with them for the maintenance.
And last question through the chair. So the submerged land lease, that's state property, correct? Or is that city property, the submerged land?
To the chair, to the councilman, it's kind of a hybrid. So the city has, if you think kind of three-dimensionally, the city, it's all artificial fill over the lake bottom. So the state has control over that lake bottom, and then the city has deeds to most of the fill. So it's kind of a hybrid kind of property control issue.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Councilman McCormick, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. I support this ordinance. Good morning, everybody. One of the things I wanted to note about the project is, and I've mentioned this to the planning folks as well, is if and when the project interacts with the road, that it be delineated. I don't trust, I've said this over and over again, I don't trust drivers. We just had a building, I don't know, over the weekend in one of our wards that was destroyed by a vehicle. People behind the wheel are just simply not to be trusted anymore, and growing concern. So anywhere along the route, it can be delineated. Where it does not have a buffer, I think would be a really good addition to the project. So thank you.
No, I like that. I think he's right. I know he's right. That's important. You had two vehicles crash into a building in Kinsman, crossing Miles and Kinsman right there, 140th area. Completely just took out a whole half of the building, the whole building rather. And so, we just don't want to have any issues like that while this project is going on. So we would appreciate that. All right, thank you. All right, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just really interesting, my colleague's question about the land and who owns it and all of that. And why would that have to be included in here, if I would ask, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Director?
Sorry, writing notes about the bike card delineation.
Or anyone who can answer.
Yes, absolutely. Well, because we own, to the chair, to the councilman, because we as the city are responsible for the field land, as we mentioned before, and
But the field land is not even nowhere near this, is it?
yes, part of it is actual field.
Oh, you're talking down here by the yacht club?
Correct, and close to the Burke Lakefront, all of that is field.
So are we talking about, so at least the last time the presentation, Mr. Chairman, to the director was made, I was under the impression that you're going to have the path, and you're going to have a walking, and I presume you're going to fix the curb lane. Is this, what is this going to look like? Because this seems like an awful lot of money.
Is there an example of the look and the?
Yeah, well, this should have it. It's the same as it did municipal services, the same, the look.
Well, you figured you're going to do all this. All you're doing is giving me a colored line. What are we looking at here? We're talking, what, 12 million? 13 million, maybe at the end of it?
Is it on here? Is this the full presentation? And on your tablet, there's pictures on your tablet as well.
But I don't even know what I'm looking at. I can't even get excited about it.
So through the chair to the councilman, this is a rendering of how the path would exist once it's constructed. You'll notice that the roadway is narrowed, and some portion of the 13 million is design, and some portion is also construction management. So it's about 11 million in project cost, but it does include the road and the path.
So you're going to put a new concrete road in there, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Through the chair, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, because you're spending a lot of money here, so I would hope that it'd be concrete versus asphalt.
What kind of roads will be directed,
And it's only a short space. It's not like it's
Through the chair, I believe it's repouring concrete.
Free pouring concrete? Okay.
I can,
But we're not
Confirm.
sure, you kind of have an idea, is it 50/50? I mean, what are we talking about?
I wish that.
Wait a minute, one second. Right, no worries. Thank you, Katie. To the chair, to the councilman, this is for an asphalt pathway. The road work will be done, but it is separate from this project.
So this project is only
This is only for the
going to be
trail.
fundamentally dealing with the trail,
Correct.
and what else?
Trail and, I'm sorry, what's the
And
second
what
part of
else?
that? And installing the lighting and the fencing,
The lighting, the fencing, and the trail
And the
for
trail,
12
correct.
million,
13 million.
13 million for 2 point. Hey, how did you get to that number? If this is all you're doing,
That is for the county can answer the total cost estimate for this project. That part is the county's contribution to this work. The city of Cleveland, our role and our partnership for this project is $130,000.
so the Cleveland is paying 130,000.
Correct.
Okay, and so the breakdown here, and I saw the breakdown. Part of that is by NOACA, correct?
Yes, NOACA has acquired federal funding, to the chair, to the councilman. NOACA has acquired federal funding in the amount of $6.5 million.
Okay.
And they've also received funding from the Mandel Foundation.
And does this, because we're building the bike path, and it's 6 million, it's 12, it's 13 million total. So the design is almost $1 million. The project construction cost, it says here, that's 11 million, or 11.8, round off. And then you're paying $587,000 for the inspection work to be done?
That would be a question for the county. They provided us with these numbers.
So does that look right, Mr. Chairman, to our great engineer, Mr. Swistowski?
Commissioner?
That's a big number there for this project, for construction inspection.
To the chair, to the council member, construction inspection rule of thumb, anywhere between 7 and 10% for a roadway. Bridges are 15 to 20% for the inspection portion. So 5 to 7% is of 5%, 11 million that you're sitting there at.
Is that right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. So then, and this is going to take a year to put in place?
That is
To the chair,
duration
to the
that's
council.
planned, council member.
And then how long, Mr. Chairman, to the director, has this been on the books to do?
Years.
Well, I want to know. I want to hear.
To the chair, to the
How
council,
did
we
they
have
put
to
it
get that
together?
information for you. I know it's as.
Because I know
council-
I've been waiting a long time for concrete-only road. I've been waiting 8 years now. So how long was it for this here to put this together?
We'd have to go back, council member. I don't have that information in my fingertips, but
Gotcha. Commissioner Carey, Councilman McCormick, I'm sorry. When was that study done by Campus District?
By Bobby.
Yeah.
So Chair to Councilman Jones, my first month on the job,
Yeah, it was a while back.
a long time ago,
Well, maybe not too
Campus
long.
Campus District met with me, and they had been working on it before that. So if that gives you a general idea.
It's about 8 years.
That's, yes.
About 8 years.
It'll be 8 years, Councilman, next Tuesday. A week
Okay,
from
great.
today,
Now,
that will
see,
be
I tell you, I'm
officially 8
good
years.
with trying to determine that, right? 8 years. So well, let me just say that, it's wonderful in 8 years that you've been able to get NOACA to come in here with $6.5 million. I got to say, Mr. Chairman, to both of you distinguished gentlemen, to have $6 million coming from NOACA is a huge coup here. So now the question would be, Mr. Chairman, to the director, how is this connecting in to other pathways?
To the directors, the chair, this is connecting to, one, there's a U.S. bike route that's coming,
Who?
a U.S.
So this
United
is
States
add-on to
bike
this
route, so
project
this will
is an
connect to that
expansion?
as well.
So,
It's, right, there are connection points.
no,
to
what
that
is it
bike-
called again?
The U.S. bike route.
US Bike Route? Okay. And where's that coming from?
That starts on the.
West or east?
It goes from west to east along the lakeshore.
Where is it starting from, though?
It is
Is
starting
it starting from the west, or is it
trying to-
starting from the east?
It is starting from, well, depends on effective, but it's starting from the west, we can say, at West 115th. And I'm recalling from memory because it's been a while since ODOT contacted us about that one. And then that will extend to Neff Road on the east side. And it'll also connect to our local bike paths. Is there one you want to point out particularly, Katie?
So we got, I presume we got like a plan, I guess would that be in planning department that would, because there's something to this because we've been doing it throughout in all the neighborhoods, putting the bike paths here. So do we have something that, or maybe Mr. Chairman, at some point, we have a discussion to talk about how all of this work that's being done throughout the city of Cleveland, how this is connecting together to give us, for some of the newer members and older members who may not be aware, how all of this is playing a part to working together.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll just say, yeah, this is expensive project. I didn't know it would cost that much for the where it's at. And so the roadway I thought for sure would be concrete. And I thought sure that, so are we doing concrete curbs and then how's that working? Because I'm looking at, if it's just a regular basic fence, you know, I'm thinking maybe you got a decorative fence. You do have a decorative fence. It's not going to be a blatant steel fence. It's going to be new lighting or different types of lighting than the lighting that's out there.
To the chair, to the councilman, yes.
Okay,
There's
so that's where
decorative
the cost
fencing
is
and
coming
there's,
at.
there's new
So
lighting
it's decorative
as well.
fencing? What kind of fencing, Mr. Chairman? Because the pictures I was looking at right there just didn't give me no justice.
Do we have any visual specs on the fence?
Was that just a general drawing
Okay.
there?
To the chairman, to the council, that was provided, I believe, in the last package, but we will make sure that you get all that information again.
Yeah, so now, then how much is the road gonna cost?
The,
Because if you're putting that kind of infrastructure on the sidewalk, it's a lot of money, of course, and it's a blessing that we got it.
right,
So how much are we spending on the road? Are we gonna do concrete?
that's a separate project.
If we're gonna do it, we should do concrete.
Commissioner?
Through the chair to the councilman, I believe the road, my understanding is the cost of the roadway will be $1.5 million. But I,
So you already telling me you're gonna do asphalt with $1.5 million?
To the chair, to the councilman, I have not looked at it, just on trying by experience, trying to understand what that would take. That is an asphalt roadway over concrete, and that's what we did about 10, 15 years ago. It was redone one time, both sides, north and south marginal.
Is asphalt on that road?
Yes, it is.
It used to be concrete.
No, it was asphalt over concrete.
It was concrete there before though, originally.
I
I
can't
used
say
to
what
drive
was-
down there when I was a kid. so
Make sure
I
you
know.
go to the chair. No.
Mr. Chairman, I used to ride down there, I know.
Okay.
I was riding that big old yellow bus all the way down there to
come on.
Aviation High School. So the reason why I'm asking the question, Mr. Chairman, because it's 2.7 miles. So with 2.7 miles, you're saying that you're going to put asphalt there, you're just going to resurface it?
To the chair, to the council member, I don't know the intricate details. Based on my experience, yes, that's what you do.
Okay, well, my suggestion, Mr. Chairman, is if we're going to be spending this kind of money, and this is a lot of money to do this fixtury that they're talking about, putting in place, that it's only befitting that you put a proper structural sound road that will last some time, so that we won't have to be coming back, Mr. Chairman. That's it. And even though it's not my project, I'm trying to help you. That's all.
Thank you. See no further questions. Ordinance number 227-202, 2024 stands approved. Here you go. All right. Ordinance number 111-2024 by council members Kelly, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin. My department requests an emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and commissioner of purchase and supplies to sell certain city-owned property no longer needed for city's public use located on West 130th Street to 3945 West 130th Properties LLC and/or its designee for purposes of redevelopment. This was heard and approved by Municipal Services and Properties. Commissioner, Commissioner?
Yes. Commissioner DeGenero will.
sure, thank you.
Thank you.
So the city owns a vacant property on West 130th Street between Interstate 71 and Brooklawn Avenue. There's a property owner to the north who would like to purchase the city-owned property, which was acquired for right-of-way related to ramps for I-71. And he wants to purchase this property to install 6 EV charging stations. He owns a gas station right next door. The city land is approximately 40 by 108 feet, about 4,300 square feet. The sale, of course, will put the land into productive reuse. The land will be sold at a appraised value of $8,400. And I want to just note, we've had several suitors over the years for this property, and I think one of the things that MOCAP does well is to vet these requests. We worked with city planning, the councilman's office, and other stakeholders to ensure that the sale of this land is a net benefit to the neighborhood rather than just kind of unloading it to the first proposer that comes along. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you. You said it's $8,000 the parcel is appraised for?
8,400.
Okay.
400.
Got it. Any questions from the committee? Councilman Harsh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I missed this, Mr. Chair, my apologies. Whose ward is this? 130th?
This is through the chair to the Councilman Kelly.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
And through the chair, Mr. Geronimo, has Councilman Kelly been consulted and reviewed
Yes,
this?
through the chair, Councilman Kelly is fully supportive.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any further questions? All right. Again, this was heard, Municipal Services. Councilman Kelly is in support. Ordinance number 111-2024 stands approved. All right. Here you go, sir. All right, ordinance number 108-2024 by council members McCormick, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by department request an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Capital Projects to execute a deed of easement granting to adjacent property owners, their successors, and assign certain easement rights in property located in the Flats East Bank development area, and declaring that the easement rights granted are not needed for city's public use. This was also heard in Municipal Services and Properties, and the file attachment is on your tablet as well. That shows the map. Director, Commissioner?
To the chairman, I will pass to Rick Switowski to continue with this presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll speak to this piece.
All right.
The city owns some property in the Flats East area that provides access to the development area, but it is not dedicated roadway. In 2015, the city signed a lease with Flats Management LLC for the construction of this roadway. Because of EPA and regional sewer regulations, the road had to be constructed out of permeable pavers, which are very maintenance intensive, and so, they're not to city standards, and so the city could not dedicate the roadway. So effectively, the abutting landowners are landlocked, and every time property changes hands or there's a refinancing, a title issue arises because of them being landlocked, not having access to a roadway, a city roadway. So this access easement would permit them to have that access into the future, so that these title issues won't keep arising.
Got it. Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, Commissioner, Director, and Councilman McCormick, there's about 4 different owners now on the Flats East Bank?
Yes, I believe, Mr. Chairman, there is a list of the abutters in the file.
Okay.
And I think it's 4 or 5.
Okay. Got it. Any questions from the committee? Councilman McCormick, anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 108-2024 stands approved. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Here you go, sir. It's Capital Projects Day, huh? Ordinance number 232-2024 by Council Members McCormack, Bishop, and Hairston by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects to issue a permit to the Sherwin-Williams Company to encroach into the public rights-of-way of West 3rd Street, Frankfort Avenue, Public Square, West Roadway, Superior Avenue, West St. Clair Avenue, and West 6th Street by installing, using, and maintaining various objects. All right, Commissioner, Director, Commissioner. 232? Yes.
I'll just wait if you don't mind until the presentation comes up. But just to give you a little background information, this is just for encroachment permits for a number of areas around the Sherwin-Williams World Headquarters, a 36-story building, the pavilion, and the parking garage. There's actually about 11 locations where they'll be putting in amenities, 8 of those that they need encroachments for. The majority of the encroachments include bollards, irrigation system, lighting, concrete site walls, snow melt system, tree planting, flower, perennial planting, perennial planting. So if we get the PowerPoint up, I can show you where those are and give you some examples of what the amenities look like.
Got it.
I didn't get to you. Apologies.
Madam Clerk, what was received for municipal services? Nothing? They didn't say anything for municipal services? Okay.
To the chair, we can certainly get this to the council, then it's a presentation that Sherwin-Williams gave to the City Planning Commission and show where all the various locations are at.
Thank you. And to the Commissioner and Director, when you have these, and whatever you gave to City Planning, make sure it gets to this body too as
Absolutely.
well. All right? We shouldn't have it where City Planning has received this and we have not received it. Because ultimately, we're the ones being asked to approve these, okay?
Correct.
Thank you. There is on your tablet a black and white version of a site. It's like a basic site map, site plan. It does not, it says encroachment map. It does not have any illustrations or colors at all that you can really see. But it is there. You can kind of get an idea of what and where they are trying to add amenities around the property. Okay. Is there any questions from the committee? Councilman Jones?
Now, this is this is the new site, just so that I can have some clarity of understanding. This is the new development that they're building currently on Public Square, Mr. Chairman, to the Director, is it?
To the chair, to the councilman, yes, it is that World Headquarters building. I believe it's supposed to be slated to open end of the year.
Okay. And this is, you're asking us to do what again?
There are
Here at this site location?
There are a number of sites where they need encroachments, meaning they're putting items into the right-of-way. Because of that, they need an encroachment permit.
Okay.
Whenever you put something like a bench, an awning that hangs into the right-of-way, earth retention systems would tie up, anything that goes in the right-of-way has to have an encroachment permit.
Okay. And this is more or less encroaching in part to develop the building, is that correct? In addition to what else?
Put in, I would say, put in certain amenities, bollards, concrete sitting walls, irrigation systems
Okay,
for...
so this is a whole process here then?
Right, the
of things.
irrigation systems for the trees, the perennials they'll be planting, and things of that nature.
How much is it going to cost us, or is it just
This
them
is not a
having the
cost, to the
ability
chair,
to
to the
encroach
council
on
member,
it?
this is not a cost to the city, it's Sherwin-Williams' cost.
Mr. Chairman, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick, you have any comments?
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. I'm very well aware of this project. I know this is a technical aspect of encroachments. I have no concerns or objections to this.
All right, thank you. All right, still send that over to us, so that way members can get an idea of what's being done here. Ordinance number 232-2024 stands approved. Here you go, sir. I think that's it. All right. Thank you, Director, Commissioner, for your time. All right.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Yeah, here you go. All right. Where are we? Director, well, no, we got Director Wackers.
Oh, yeah.
Director Wackers.
How you doing, Director?
Ordinance 334. Three, three, four? He's trying to forgive somebody's wrong mind. We'll see what this is about. All right. Ordinance number 334-2024 by council members Harrison and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Community Development to terminate Housing Trust Fund home contract number RH 65559 with Emerald Development and Economic Network Incorporated, and to forgive the principal balance on the loan and to cancel the promissory note. Director.
Yes. Good morning, committee. So this is a home program loan that was given in 2006 to Emerald Development Economic Network, also known as Eden, to operate a facility for those with mental illness and supportive housing. It's a component of the city's sort of homelessness infrastructure. However, this 7-unit townhome facility is no longer working for Eden, and they're looking to have more flexibility in how they serve these clients and shift them over to tenant-based housing choice vouchers. As a result, Eden has maintained the property for the purposes of the loan for 18 out of the 20 years. They are looking to sell the property now and requesting the city to consider a forgiveness of the full amount, which is $47,000. It was originally given in 2006. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you. So let me get this right. So our loan to them initially was $47,000, or
Correct.
this is the balance left over?
It was originally a loan for 20 years, was 0% interest. So the $47,000 is the original amount provided for the project.
So they paid nothing over the 20 years?
That is correct.
And why was that?
Those were the terms of the structure of the deal. Likely was that the project really did not generate any revenue. Therefore, we could not apply an interest rate or even have payment terms. It was a balloon payment to be repaid in 2026.
Okay, so they are coming from up under this balloon payment within the nick of time. It's a couple of years.
Well, they're trying to serve their clients the best they can. The property no longer functions for them, and therefore they're looking to shift those tenants over onto housing choice vouchers.
Okay. So I was going to ask you, when you mean the property no longer serves their purpose, or the need for them to serve their client's purpose, so they want to remove them all out of the property, because this is the multifamily building, correct? How many units in this building?
7 units.
7 units? Oh, it's only 7 units in this property.
Correct.
Is this whose ward is this?
It's Dennison Avenue, so
Is this
it's
yours?
either 14 or 13. 980, 9,830. Maybe it's Kelly.
Okay. So what is this, like a
It's a
apartment
townhome
building? A
facility.
townhome?
So
Okay.
yeah, with 7 units.
Oh, it's that property on the corner. Okay. And so you are going to, you're going to move the tenants, put them on housing choice voucher program. So they have their secured the vouchers for the folks who are in the property?
They have.
So all folks who have secure housing choice vouchers, and are they being provided assistance to move?
The tenants will still be clients of Eden, but they will have, obviously, the vouchers, and since the property is aging, they'll probably be relocated to a better, more decent facility or units.
Councilman Harsh?
Through the chair, will Eden be the party selling the building?
That is correct.
And through the chair, does Eden have an anticipated buyer lined up?
Through the chair, they're looking for in order to be able to sell the building, they need, that, I believe there is a buyer that has been identified. I'm not sure if there's an agreement yet.
And so you see where I'm going here. Do we have, through the chair, do we have a negotiated sales price, and what might that be, and could that potentially cover the 47,000?
Right, that's 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And through the chair, Eden does the Lord's work. They are one of the few people in this city actually doing housing for some of the most struggling populations that we have. And I'm not going to pile on Eden. I'm not here for that. But if they're selling the building and there's a sales price involved, then maybe we should have that information before we decide. And I also understand that, Mr. Chairman, this was a deal struck 18 years ago before I think any of us were here. I think that might even predate Old Man McCormick. So I understand that we're dealing with some of our predecessors' agreements, but if that information is available, Mr. Chair, that might be helpful.
So the chair, I can certainly get that provided. I know we have taken a look at it. I just don't recall the terms.
Got it. Thank you, Councilman Harsh. I mean, you're right. And the deal that was struck prior to us was that the balloon payment comes payable at 20 year. And so we're at 18 year out of 20.
And Mr. Chair, it's just, if the loan was to help them secure purchase of the building, I would assume that the building has appreciated over 20 years.
Absolutely.
Most likely. It's possible that it's depreciated, but it's a curiosity I have, and I think, information that we should have available.
I agree. Anything else from the committee?
So basically, Mr. Chairman, it is, if I may ask, it is basically a loan repayment that was established a time back, and they're within the guideline of being able to bring it back to us without any interest?
Through the chair to Councilman, if I understand the question, so
What are
many deals are structured as a loan, so the city continues to have an interest in the property. They get, and these types of very affordable housing, you're serving very, very low-income residents. The only way it does work is it functions essentially as a grant, but in order for them to maximize their low-income housing tax credits, giving grants at the beginning of the project is actually reduces the amount of tax credits you can generate. It's somewhat of a gimmick, but it's not to be nefarious. And the reality is you'll probably see this over and over again on projects where forgiveness will have to be considered at the end of when the balloon payment is due.
Right, so right now, they're within the way the agreement is written, they can bring it back and we can just accept at this point, the 47,000.
Right, what the ordinance on the table is the request for forgiveness. That's what we're asking for. You have requested more information, we're happy to provide that.
Okay, so they're asking to forgive the 47,000 loan that we've given them?
That is correct.
Okay. So why would we be inclined to give them 47,000, given the fact that they're about to get ready to sell for 1.2 million?
Through the chair, not aware of that number. So.
Do you know what number they're selling it for, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Wackers?
I'd have to go back and provide, look at the sales agreement.
Right. So would it be anywhere close to that, if you could recall?
Through the chair, I have not taken a look at it. I know that staff requested it, so I assume that we have it.
But this is something the administration wants to do, I presume, is to waive this off.
That is correct, so through the chair, and I believe that Councilman Kelly has also been informed.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further questions, but I will say this, Mr. Chairman, is that, when we do use city funds, we do, and we work to try to, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Wackers, to give people an opportunity to bump ahead. But when they are doing really well, and they are building and developing in other places, Eden has established itself all over the city. They're building, and they still have a building plan that's second to none in their respective territory, which, again, like Chris Harsh said, they're doing a great work. But you would think that at least in a case like this, they would at least give this money back to the city of Cleveland so that we can take it and give it to some other people who may need to use that same $47,000. Even though it may not be a lot, it still would be useful to help in other places. Just my humble suggestion, Mr. Chairman, to the administration.
Thank you. Director Wackers, we're going to hold 334. Let's work and get that info, get it over to Joe Titron and myself, and then we can make sure we get that out to the to members of the committee. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. All right. All right. Director, City Planning, Resolution 321-2024 by Council Members Conwell, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency resolution approving the creation of a new special improvement district in the city by University Circle Incorporated as an existing qualified non-profit corporation, approving the amendment to the Articles of Corporation by University Circle Incorporated, creating the special improvement district, accepting petitions from owners of property in the proposed district, approving the initial comprehensive services plan for the new district, declaring it necessary to provide police and safety services, providing for an assessment for the cost of such services upon benefited properties in the district, and declaring an emergency. File number 321-2024A is attached. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, all. As you are aware, special improvement districts are administered by the City Planning Department, and so we are the ones who help create the legislation and authorize the process. We have with us a full team from University Circle, Inc. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alicia Blonsky from University Circle, Inc. to go through the presentation. I will add, the team came before this body, I believe, last year, 2023, to discuss the SID. Since then, they have had some edits to their plan, as well as other updates that they'd like to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Alicia Blonsky. I'm the Chief Place Management Officer for University Circle Incorporated, and we're here today as we seek the city's approval for the creation of the University Circle Special Improvement District to both sustain and improve safety in University Circle through the services of our University Circle Police Department and UCI. I do want to note that while the SID will specifically support safety, as is detailed in the service plan submitted, University Circle will continue to provide services outside of this agreement, funded separately, including our community events like Wait Oval Wednesday, community engagement, marketing, placemaking, place management, and advocacy. Updates to our service plans since seeing you last year include updating our budget numbers to now reflect our 2025 estimated costs, both a clarification and expansion of a planned residential exemption in the SID, and also updates to our description of services to reflect renewed emphasis on community policing, which I'll ask our chief to talk a bit about, as well as transportation safety services. We have submitted petitions from members of the district in excess of 30% of frontage and 70% of area as required by code. We are also grateful for the ongoing support of our 3 council members in the district, including Council President Blaine Griffin, Councilman Kevin Conwell, and Councilwoman Stephanie House-Jones. I'm joined today at the table by our counsel, Teresa Metcalf-Beasley from McDonald-Hopkins, our Chief Financial Officer, Dean Parker, our Chief of Staff, Sherry Bandy, and our Chief of Police, Tom Wetzel, who I'm going to turn it over here in a moment to just highlight some of our efforts. We're here to answer any questions you might have and appreciate your review this morning.
All right. Thank you. Chief?
Thank you, Councilman.
Or you can take that. Thanks.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
We'll get the mic situation together at some point.
Good to go?
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Just really excited to be part of this team here. We've really push very strongly a servant's heart mentality, a culture within our police department. We even have it inscribed on our front area there with a big stone. So every time our officers come, every single day that they walk in, any visitors that come in, they recognize right away that is the culture we want. So I'm really excited. And during the summer, you know, we were kind of at a low point with staffing. We were down 39% of our full-time staffing. Right now, we're just 2 officers shy of being fully staffed, which is exceptional in today's environment. So people are recognizing they want to come to our place, and we've really made a point of just ensuring that we hire officers, you know, that have the right character and recognize the value of empathetic policing. We take community policing very seriously, almost to the next level of an empathetic police model. That's the culture I've been promoting since I was at Richmond Heights, and I brought it here, and they're buying in. And everybody that we're hiring, we're ensuring that this is the type of people we're looking for. So a lot of promise, a lot of exciting things. We're doing really some special stuff in the community, and it's paying off.
All right. Thank you, Chief. How long have you been the chief over in UCI?
Since June 7th as the interim, and in September I was made the full-time one.
Okay. So you replaced the previous chief. What was the previous chief?
I was a chief in Richmond Heights for 4 years, 4 months, and then I did 31 years with the Beechwood Police Department.
Right. Got it.
Chairman, our previous chief was Chief Jim Rapicki.
Okay. Got you. All right. Anything else from the committee, from the panel, rather? All right. Just a couple of things. So before we were here, there were some issues around conversations that were supposed to happen that folks felt like didn't happen. So we're all clear with the other institutions who are part of this district, the clinic, UH, and others. Everyone's on board and supportive.
Yeah, so we have support from the petitions that were submitted, and we've not heard of any opposition from any of our institutions or property owners, though we do recognize that individual property owners reserve the right to come and contest any portion of their assessment at the Equalization Board moving forward. But that's a process that will be administered after this resolution of necessity passes.
Okay. All right. I know you mentioned all 3 council members are in support. They did all acknowledge that they were in support of this resolution here today. We did receive some comments regarding the past policing practices of University Circle and the high ticket rates or just complaints that were made on black motorists through University and Circle Incorporated. What has been done by UCI to help address the issue of you know, the biases that folks have alleged over in UCI's area?
Thank you, Councilman. That was a big push that was very important to me coming in. That was all part of that servant's heart culture. We spent less time, we were obviously focused on traffic violations, but we wrote 24% less written tickets from 22 to 23, and we wrote 7 times more written warnings. That's the culture I want. I want more clemency. I want them to understand, you know, walk a day in some of the people's shoes that you're stopping. They may not have a lot of money for these fines. So again, we don't ignore traffic, but the culture has changed. We also had an officer go and be trained as a community diversity and procedural justice instructor. And she has already been training our officers, so we're constantly ongoing, regular reinforcement of the importance of making sure you do a good job when you're out there. One of the first things I did when I was put in charge was make a bias-based policing policy, which we didn't have. So again, we're just constantly reinforcing the importance of, you know, recognizing this concern and making sure that no problems ever happen that way.
Got it. So what I'm hearing is that you've actually sent folks to get training. You have changed the internal policies to reflect, you know, how and the way that you want your officers and your department to operate. And you believe, I'm hearing that it's ongoing as well, correct?
It is, Councilman, and it's not a one and done. In my view, this is something that you constantly have to pay attention to. And I did that in Richmond Heights, and we had tremendous success. And we're doing that here, and I can tell it's working.
Yeah. I've heard your name from Councilman Nelson.
Oh, yes.
Richmond Heights.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, Councilman Harsh. No. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a
A couple of questions. I remember going through this last year. So through the chair to the director, or if somebody else wants to take the question, did the boundaries of the SID change between what was proposed last year and this?
Yeah, I can address that question. There was a slight change on the southwest portion, and the extent of it was to change the boundary for parcels that we'd already planned to exempt, but it was cleaner to exempt them through the boundary than through a written exemption, which raised other questions as it went through licenses and assessments and engineering, the full result of which is a change of less than 1%. So it's a modest change and reflects parcels that we had planned to exempt.
Okay, so through the chair, is the Cleveland Clinic now completely cut out of this?
No,
Are
the
all their
Cleveland Clinic
properties-
is not
they're not.
cut out of it. No, it was primarily residential parcels that were to be exempted. That's the boundary change.
Okay. And through the chair, the relationship then between, because the Cleveland Clinic, I believe, has a police department as well, and University Circle has a police department. And what is the relationship between those two? I don't know. Are they sub-jurisdictions? I'm not even, huh? And Case has one, right? How is that? And is all that monitored by the Cleveland Police Department, or how does this work?
Yeah, it's complex, and there's more than just the three of us. There's probably close to 7 or 8 different police departments that all work in this area. They have specific areas of responsibility, but we work very, very well together. I was impressed when I came here because this was a dynamic I wasn't used to, and I was impressed how well we all get along. We're in regular communications with all the chiefs in this Cleveland area here, and we just assist each other as needed. So I've been impressed the way it works. There's definitely a cooperative level with all those chiefs.
So through the chair to the chief then, you said you were 2 officers shy of your total. What is the total number of officers employed?
We are budgeted for 23 full-timers, full-time officers, and then we have anywhere from 6 to 8 part-time officers. Then we have 5 dispatchers actually, and 1 executive assistant. So we're right now at 21, and we just had an officer retire. So actually, we're going to be that was just last week. So we'll need to replace 3 total. But
and Mr. Chair, I guess my question, well, another question through the chair then, does the existence of these police departments relieve Cleveland Police Department from needing to patrol this area?
Not so much that they don't have to patrol the area. Again, this is their jurisdiction, but we're an important force multiplier. You know, we have more visibility out there. Our officers actually, our 7 frontline cruisers in 2023 drove 56,000 miles, which is 2 times around the globe. That's just patrolling that area, and in high dense traffic. So they make a big impact that way. Where Cleveland officers may be tied up with other matters, our officers can handle all these different things as well as provide that critical crime prevention aspect of high visibility.
I guess, Mr. Chair, I hear loud and clear that President Griffin, Councilman Conwell, and Councilwoman House Jones are in favor of this. But I guess the Cleveland Police Department is severely understaffed to the tune of 180 officers short of where we need to be. And we've got a plethora of departments and police patrol in this area. Now, I understand the importance of University Circle, and I'm not going to disparage the need for that, for safety in that part of town. But, my residents want to see police officers in Old Brooklyn too. And my biggest complaint I get is that they don't see police officers. And it seems there is something clearly going on when we can have 7 police departments almost fully staffed in one part of town, and we can't staff the primary police department in every other part of town. And that seems to be a difficulty I'm going to have explaining to residents why we don't have enough patrol officers in my neighborhood, but we've got 7 police departments in the University Circle. If it were relieving the Cleveland Police Department of having to patrol this area and they could then redirect those officers to other parts of town, that would seem like it would be contributing to our overall needs as a city, but that doesn't sound like it's what's happening. And while I don't want to be a wrench in this, I do want to express my concern that we are clearly prioritizing safety for one group of residents over safety for other residents of this city, and that is troublesome. I would like to see the safety the University Circle enjoys shared by all residents in Cleveland, and everybody to have robust patrols and then be able to see officers going up and down the area. Through the chair to the director, The creation of the special improvement district is, I believe it's essentially a tax assessment? Okay. And what is that amount? Well, how does that calculated? What for the folks at home and for my memory?
It's a great question. So generally speaking, this is for lack of better term, a self-imposed tax by the property owners within the geography to say, hey, we're going to contribute on an annual basis part of our tax portion towards something. But this is a unique situation because it is a little different with all the institutions. So I will turn it over to Elise to comment on how this would be an additional tax on top of any other taxes paid.
Yeah, just to further clarify that, it is an additional tax rather than taking any dollars that would have gone to the city to support safety services. It's an additional tax on top, and I'll actually turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Dean Parker, to detail the budget.
To the chair, to the councilman, yes, the amount of the SID is $3.9 million that the property owners in the district have agreed to pay an additional amount rather than a voluntary assessment as they have been paying historically.
And through the chair, is that a uniform amount as a percentage of property value, or how is that calculated?
It is. To the chair, to the councilman, it's formula based on the property value and frontage. It's a multifaceted formula that in turns equally applies it to every permanent parcel number in the footprint.
Through the chair, is it a millage or is it a percentage?
To the chair, I'm not really clear on the difference.
Through the chair, what percent is being voluntarily paid by property owners into the special improvement district? Is it 0.5%, 1%? Is it a millage collected through the county on property taxes distributed?
No.
How is that coordinated?
Through the chair, that's not the structure of it. So again, this is an additional tax on top of any existing property taxes. And I believe yours is 30% frontage, 70%.
Yeah, so our
property value.
assessment is applied equal parts value, frontage, and area. So the cost of services is divided up equally among those three factors. So a property owner would pay 1/3 of their overall portion of area, 1/3 of their overall portion of frontage, 1/3 of their overall portion of value towards that total program budget. If that
Right, so the
helps to
total
clarify.
total program budget is the 3.96 million. If you're a property owner and you have frontage, let's just say you have 2% frontage of the whole geography with the property value that you have. So your percentage of that 3.96 million is dependent on how much property you own.
So through the chair, you do the math backwards. You start with the amount that's going to be collected, and then you divide it by the property owners based on their frontage, their area. I see. So through the chair then to the director, so every property owner has been approached with what that amount is going to be, and that amount is going to be static until they all agree to a new assessment, or they agree to reassessments as well?
So any assessed property owner has received a petition package, including the service plan, including their estimated assessment. The amount does increase 3% a year for the 5-year period. And then prior to the 5 years being up, there will be a revisiting of the service plan, a revisiting of the budget and structure as we seek for another authorization.
Okay, I see. So it's more like an operating levy where you pick the amount and then you figure out the math backwards and everybody, you got 60% of property owners to agree to this, and that's what crosses the legal threshold to allow it to be imposed. I think I'm up to
And
speed.
just as clarification, we are required to receive 60% of frontage. We received over 70. We're required to receive 70% of area, and we received 79.
Mr. Chair, my only concern, and this is going to come up in other aspects, is that a lot of these are nonprofit institutions that typically are tax exempt, and there is a lot of discussion around a pilot payment in lieu of taxes, and this is a version of a pilot. There agreeing to a payment above and beyond. But for some of these institutions, they don't pay a lot in taxes because they're nonprofit. And so I know that there is going to be conversations, particularly regarding school districts, CMSD, about nonprofit institutions' ability to make payments in lieu of taxes to support the schools. And I'm wondering how much that conversation is complicated, or how much that conversation interacts with this proposal. I don't know why. I guess I'm just thinking out loud. It's going to come up, and it's probably going to be an argument to against any proposal for payments in lieu of taxes to the school district, should that conversation become more sincere, and I believe it will be. Yeah, I'm not throwing a wrench in it. I have reservations about this, and I have concerns that this is prioritizing the needs of some residents over that of others, and what that means for us. But I will stop rambling. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Harsh. Before we go to Councilman McCormick, I hear your concerns, but I would disagree that this is prioritizing some residents over another. Fortunately for them, in this area, they happen to have many institutions that happens to have police districts, right? And so, I would maybe feel that way if this were an assessment going towards adding more Cleveland police officers or additional patrol, by our home department. However, this is going to support a already established police department by the individuals who own and operate, parcels in a particular area. So I hear you. I don't want, we don't have to go back and forth right now. I'm just, kind of sharing my thoughts. But I see it a little bit differently than the way you see it. But I just wanted to share those comments. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just want to thank the team here for taking a lot of the feedback here at the table and really creating actionable responses to that. So I really appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, I can't have my VASJ Viking here at the table without giving her a shout out, my classmate. So good to see you, Director. Chair, I support this legislation. Just a couple thoughts on it. One, and I'll use my ward as example, obviously, all of us want a fully staffed Cleveland Police Department that is able to properly patrol every single neighborhood in the city of Cleveland and provide the coverage that our residents deserve and want. Hopefully, a lot of the changes that the city is making will achieve that over a period of time, and that's important to all of us. But I would say that, as you noted, Chair, there are certain areas of the city, and I'll use my own ward versus my own ward, so we don't get into a ward thing. Downtown has unique needs that Tremont doesn't. Tremont does not have tens of thousands of employees that come into it every day. Tremont doesn't have 3 sports teams. Tremont doesn't have, all of the things that the downtown neighborhood does. So the reason that their Downtown Cleveland Alliance is so active, the reason that we have a downtown services unit is because it's simply different. And there are simply different needs, and that's okay, right? So within Ward 3, again, I want Tremont staffed and patrolled just like every other neighborhood should be, not taken away from that. But the point is that certain areas of the city, due to their institutional concentration, due to their business concentration, have a higher need volume, really. Not that anyone's need is more important than the other, just a higher volume of activity. And I think that University Circle is the exact same thing. The institutions, all that's going on there, there's just a higher volume going on that I think you could really argue warrants this type of added capacity. So again, it's not saying that Chairman, one neighborhood is better than the other, more important, needs things more than the other. It's just that they're simply different scenarios from one place to another, simply put. So I just wanted to make that note. I agree. I don't think this is prioritizing one neighborhood versus the other. I really don't. I think we just, think a little bit about the different needs in these parts of the city, and they're just, again, simply different. Not better, not worse, not more valuable, not less. But you have 27,000 employees of the Cleveland Clinic. You have tens of thousands of people coming in and out of the circle every single day to visit or to work in the circle. It's just simply a different scenario than a Tremont or a North Collinwood or a wherever because of its unique needs. So I have no hesitation on that. I think this makes sense. Chair, I'm curious, I'm glad to see that, quite frankly, some of the institution that came here before, I hope is supportive now. I appreciate the Cleveland Clinic tremendously, and I think one of the things we got to be conscientious of is there's the property tax conversation, but here at the city, they have to pay tens of millions of income tax to the city of Cleveland. That's our main, so that's the main juice that the city uses across our neighborhoods. And I think they have around 27,000 employees in the city, something like that. So while I think the property tax conversation around exempt institutions is important, we also need to remember that unlike other places like the clinic are building in the city. They're hiring more in the city. They're locating more offices in the city. They got a 1 million square foot building under construction right now that will be fully staffed with people that, number one, are going to be there, cannot send all their employees to Brooklyn or work from home. And number two, all the folks that work in that building are going to pay income taxes to the city of Cleveland, which goes into our general fund. It's our number one feeder to our general fund. So I think we need to be conscientious of that. But again, Chair, I think that understanding the context of ensuring that everything that Councilman Hairston discussed around inclusive approaches, understanding the fact that this is a collaborative approach, meaning that there won't be silos, I hope. I hope those institutions that have their own forces will actively and collaboratively work together with the new SID so that we're not creating overlap or confusion. I think this request makes sense. And again, I know Councilman Conwell and others had questions and concerns. And I hope the fact that this is here today, that those have been addressed. But Mr. Chair, I will just say that in closing, I had a friend from out of town for the eclipse and took him over to the cherry blossoms in University Circle, and he could not believe it. I hate saying this because I don't need to be sold on Cleveland. I don't. But he had never been here and was just blown away by the city of Cleveland. We went all over the city, and he was just blown away. And so I think it's critically important that University Circle remains a hub for employment in the city, because unfortunately we are far too often reminded of how easy it is to plop a building outside of the city of Cleveland and put your employees into it, or to simply say, we're leaving that lease and everyone's working from home. So I think we really have to be conscientious of ensuring that we continue supporting investment in the city limits and creating mechanisms that will ensure that there's future investment, employment, and residential in the city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman McCormick. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you started
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You started out talking about had the conditions got better, and it was really good to see that they have a new person in there that came in the door talking about how you're poised to do a lot of training, to have done a lot of training with the police department to make the situation there better. Do you guys keep information on how many folks you arrest on an annual basis and who they are?
Director. I'm so used to direct. Chief.
Thank you. We do. I didn't bring any statistics, but we keep very close records of stuff. And we make a point of ensuring that the records that we are keeping is not garbage in, garbage out, to make sure that whatever, we are tracking, that it's tracked properly and there's no duplications and, misinformation. So we want to make sure it's accurate. But yeah, that is a common practice there and has been for a while.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm going to get into, but I want to just touch this a little bit, because I think that, if you're doing a good work and you're providing good service to people, then what can we glean from that? How can we learn from that? And how can we transfer those types of services to our people? So I want to ask a series of questions quickly, if all possible, Mr. Chairman. The police department has 21 officers that are employed there. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Right now, I believe that is our exact number, yeah, of full-time officers. And then
Okay,
we have,
So that is like round the clock, correct?
yeah, they run in shifts of anywhere from 3 to 4, and they work 12-hour shifts.
And they have like 2 cars, 3 cars in the
Generally
neighborhood?
3.
Generally
yeah.
three patrol cars?
Yeah.
And so you have 3 patrol cars, and you have roughly about, on average, anywhere between 3 to maybe sometimes 6 police officers on a shift. Is that correct?
Generally, during the daytime, we would have a higher number because we have administrative staff there as well, and we do actually go out and try to assist with calls. Even just yesterday, we had some car thefts that took place, and I was out there looking for people and assisting them where we could. So during the daytime, we can have quite a few officers out there. In the evening times, it runs a little leaner.
And what's that annual budget for your police department to do this, to run this program, your program, to protect the citizens in the area?
I believe it's 3, I think Dean can speak to the exact
To the
number.
Chairman, to the Councilman, it's $3.9 million is what the basis of the SID is. The entire cost is a little over $4 million. There are some institutions that will pay voluntarily outside of this.
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to get to a point here because I think this is significant and important. So right now, it sounds like University Circle has 21 people around the clock, 3 to 4 cars, on average about 3 cars patrolling their area, and they spend about $4 million. Is that right? $4 million for
Yes,
your
sir.
area. Okay, now let me ask this question, Mr. Chairman, because I tried to bring this out here at the table about how we divide our police department up. So $4 million. So how many residents do you take care of in your territory?
So we have
What's your
roughly-
population
Yeah, we
size?
have roughly 10,000 residents.
10,000 residents?
And to the comments from Councilman McCormick, just to give a sense of, our visitor data, we've had, at most recent count, 12 million visits annually. That's driven not only by residents, but also our employment base, which is roughly 60,000.
And you said 12 million visitors?
12 million visits.
Visits a
Yeah.
year? All right, so you got 12 million visits, and how many jobs were you going in and talking about? that?
Around 60,000.
60,000? Okay.
Remember, everything goes through the chair, please.
Thank
Yes.
you, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I mean, it's quite impressive. They're using $4 million, 21 police officers, 3 patrol cars, and they're taking care of 10,000 residents. Our residents about 20,000, and some change, depending on where we're at. 12 visits, or 12 million visits, and over 60,000 employees. And how big is the geographical territory?
I believe it's 1.21 square miles when you include Little Italy.
Okay, can you repeat that again, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to make sure I heard that right.
Through the chair to the councilman, it's just over 1 square mile, 1.2.
So you have 1 square mile. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I just, and I haven't done the math, but I'm giggly over it. I don't see why we shouldn't have 21 police officers for each ward and 3 patrol cars. So I'm going to come back and put a bookmark there. That's something the council is going to have to deal with. But Joe Titron, Mr. Chairman, to Joe Titron. Can we make sure that we record this, because this is important, I think, for a further deeper dive in terms of keeping our citizens safe. Now, we've heard the arguments about one neighborhood versus neighborhood, but if we're talking about $4 million and the kind of workload that they do within that stretch of 1 square mile, I know that certainly, Mr. Chairman, that this is something that Cleveland can certainly learn from and see how we can implement that so that we can have higher visibility in our communities and our neighborhoods as well. And every neighborhood, you're right, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. McCormick, is different. We don't have the stellar operations and development corporations as University Circle has. Your reputation precedes you coming to the table of all the work that you've done, and my hat's out to you on the great work that you've done and making sure that that entire neighborhood has been stable for quite some time. So I'm appreciative of the work that you all do, and it's something I certainly would like to, at another time, have a meeting with you, talk about some of the programs and some of the services that you actually offer the residents. Now, what we have before us right now is a map of the entire territory, and what you're asking council for, just to make sure I'm clear, is the approval of this so that you can tax your people a little bit more money than what their voluntary tax system has been in place now. Is that correct?
It's correct. To the chair, to the councilman, that it's the property owners requesting to tax themselves to support these services.
Isn't that a blessing? And so they're going to tax themselves how much? Is it $5 million, or is it gradually increases?
It's $3.9 million to start. To the chair, through the councilman, increasing 3% per year to fund these safety services.
And this is all for safety?
For safety services, yes, including services of our UCPD, as well as UCI in terms of transportation safety services.
I see. And when you get this additional money, what would you, right now you're spending $4 million, so you're going to get a lot of money now. Is that right? You're going to get like double?
To the councilman, to the chairman, we've been operating at a deficit. We've been supporting these safety services because our expenses have exceeded the revenues received under the voluntary assessment. That's the reason we're before you today, is to have it where our full costs are funded appropriately so that we aren't funding those from other sources.
So we're right now at a $4 million annual budget now?
Correct.
Okay, and so...
To the chairman, to the councilman, there is expansion, the things that we've been talking about. There is additional services, to be very clear.
Okay, so there's something in addition to?
There's some things outlined in the service plan that we're agreeing to do, that we're planning to do, and this funding will allow us to do.
I see.
Increase the training, to increase correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, with the partnership with RTA? Can you speak to that?
Getting this right through the councilman to the chair. We added a crisis intervention specialist, a CIS co-responder. She's already begun working with us. That was not, part of our original budget, so we're, making room for that, and that's off to a great start. She's working actually today, and definitely making an impact in our community. It's on a part-time basis right now, and we were able to have her come from the Cleveland RTA. They have a very similar program, and we basically modeled our program after their program. It was, it's already a plug and play for us, and she was I believe, one of the best ones they had, and she agreed to come and work with us part-time, so it's been fantastic. And we really want to build on her. We've given her the autonomy to take that program to the next level, so we're excited where that could lead us. And we also started a police ambassador program, which involves, we pay people from the Help Foundation with people with intellectual disabilities, as well as people from the Magnolia Clubhouse that have mental health struggles, and we've made them part of our department. They have a uniform, they accompany our officers. They're obviously not doing police work, but they're in our community events. One was with us yesterday at the Total on the Oval, and it's all part of that, just giving the face and connecting with those that we serve in a better way. So they've had a huge impact, and we're paying them. We're making their work worthwhile. We want them to have fruitful labor with us. So.
Quickly, Mr. Chairman, looking at the numbers, so you were working at a deficit, so how much did you have to substitute to make the difference?
To the chairman, to the councilman, somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 annually.
Okay.
May I add one thing through the chair to the councilman? So also the other part of this is right now only 37 people pay into the SID, so it's the voluntary payers. This would make it so that every property owner would pay into the SID, so it would be more equally dispersed across the district. It's more equitable.
And all of what we're talking about here, all of the money that will be utilized here is all for safety. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Mr. Chairman, I do have some more questions on fundamentals on some certain things. I'm not opposed to this, but this is something that we should take a closer look at and see if there's somehow we can do some of this in Cleveland and other areas as well. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I have no unreadiness. I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Councilman Joe Jones. And I was looking through this large file attachment that we received, the letter from your firm, McDonald Hopkins. You know, I'm looking at the CC list on here. Now, little things like this should be addressed. You know, on your CC list, you have the Honorable Justin Embiid Mayor with the attachments. You have others listed, and then you have Blaine Griffin, counsel, and other council members. You know, the mayor and the council are co-equal branches of government, and not only the mayor is not only the honorable person here in this building. So I you know, just a matter of when those letters come over like that those be addressed appropriately. We would appreciate it. And Blaine Griffin is the president of Cleveland City Council. He's just not council.
Agree.
All right.
Thank you.
And it didn't come from you. It just
Thank
came
you.
from you. I know you know that for sure.
I understand.
It came probably clerk in the office or something like that. So make sure that we.
Are addressed properly.
That's right. All right. Thank you. See no further questions. Resolution 321-2024 stands approved. All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We'll see you at Finance next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam. Nice to meet you. I will.
Do you have another piece?
I do have two more. He's retired.
So he's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Ordinance number 1337-2023 by Councilmembers Harrison and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of City Planning to enter into an amendment to contract number PS 2023-0018 with James Cornerfields Operation LLC to extend the contract for an additional year for additional services required by the city and to amend the name of the consultant from James Cornerfield Operation LLC to Field Operations LLC. All right, Director, before you start, there's a dollar amount change to this as well, correct?
So the amendment, the original legislation only had a time
Only at a
stamp.
time.
It did not have a dollar amount, but we are adding funds to this particular contract.
And why was the dollar amount not included on the original piece?
Because you can choose between dollar amount or time, and so time was selected by the law department as the limiting factor for the original piece.
Gotcha, and if we go to time, there has to be something into this, some
Sure.
not to exceed number.
Sure.
There's not a not to exceed number on here?
Not in this particular amendment, no.
But the original piece had a not to exceed or no?
Did not. The contract has a not to exceed.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Let's talk about that. If we don't get that addressed today before finance, I want to get that addressed. I don't think I'm okay with just, I don't know how they got past the first time.
Sure.
Just without a not to exceed number. We can end up for consulting and plans, $2 million, $3 million, and that's something that this body doesn't want to see happen.
Happy to discuss.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. So the purpose of this particular ordinance, this was introduced November 20th, 2023, was to amend the contract PS 2023-0018 under the original authorizing legislation, which authorized the planning department to begin the study for the North Coast Lakefront Master Plan. So since then, as you're aware, Field Operations was selected as the consultant. Councilman McCormack was a part of that selection process, as was our partners. So this contract does a few things. One is administrative in nature, and the other is a request to add funds. So the first is a simple administrative change. James Cornerfield Operations LLC changed their name last year officially to Field Operations LLC. And so because of that change, our contracts lock in under that particular business name. So this is a request to change the name in the contract from James Cornerfield Operations LLC to Field Operations LLC. The second is a request to add funds for work that has been done and will be done this spring. So additional work to the plan includes transportation planning related to the connector project. 3D digital modeling and professional renderings, community engagement and meetings, conceptual drafts and scenario planning, and then the core shore concept development. The reason for the additional funds is because we had two very complex contracts working simultaneously, one being the master plan, which is the vision for the lakefront itself, and then the connector project, which is the engineering. So if you remember, that's the $5 million contract for the connector project that MOCAP is running. So throughout the process last year, there was a lot more advice needed from the field operations design team in order to advise on the master planning process and the connector process. So last year at the 2023 appropriations, Chief Abunema had set aside $260,000 out of that 2023 end of year appropriations to cover that work. On top of that, we're asking for $140,000 to cover some additional detailed work that we want studied before the master plan wraps up.
All right, Director, we'll pause there real quick. So the initial contract was $260,000?
Initial contract under Ordinance 1232-2022 for field operations was $500,000 in the contract.
Okay, but what was set aside? Actually set aside on the contracts?
Right.
It said up to.
It said up to $500,000, and we've expended that amount. So my request before you today is to add an additional $400,000 to the field operations contract, $260,000 of which was a part of the 2023 appropriation process. So that is from the 2023 year. For 2024, I'm asking for $140,000 as well.
200 I got you. I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm clear. The contract initially from 1232 for James Cornerfields was $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
You exceeded that, and that was just on the connector and the what work?
So the work that they did additionally was the connector, as you said. So they advised from a design standpoint to make sure that the engineering process was indeed pedestrian and bike friendly. And then they also did 3D digital modeling to create the vision, the visuals before us, as well as it ended up being a lot more intensive in terms of community engagement than originally thought. So that is work done 2023. And then there's a few more items that we want to seek this year in terms of concept planning and scenario planning. And I do have some more slides if it would be helpful to walk through exactly their
and
process.
So the additional amount, you want to add another $400,000.
Yep, that's correct.
$260,000 was set aside at the end of the year transfer ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't passed that yet, right, Councilman McCormick?
No, this is this. This is this piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
The $260,000 though has not been passed and appropriated though.
No, this legislation would allow for that appropriation to happen.
And in addition, you need $140,000
Yep.
from 2024.
Yes.
And do we know where those funds are coming from?
So Chief Abunama has identified funds. He will be here for Finance Committee on Monday and can speak to that.
Okay.
So the total would be $400,000.
Okay, go ahead, Director.
Sure. Okay, so some of these slides may be familiar to you, but part of the reason why we selected field operations is that we really believed in their process and believe in their partnership. They are landscape architects, and that's very different from just regular architecture, because their process as landscape architects really believes in inside-out planning. So oftentimes with master plans, we look at where all the buildings are going to go and where the developments are going to go, and then plan the public space around it. But here they were really prioritizing the public space and what was going to be affordable and accessible to all city residents. And then they said, okay, let's work backwards and figure out how to create a development pattern that really makes sense with where we are going as a city. So part of the process was to say, all right, how do we conceive of this lakefront? Right now it's a parking lot. And many Clevelanders may not feel like they have a place at the lakefront. So part of the process was to explore the whole history in which the team gathered all these stories, whether it's from the Native American community, from the Asian American community. These are some photos from, I believe, Ward 1 and possibly some residents from Ward 14 who talked about their collective memories of the lakefront. So I don't have many memories of Lake Erie is a memory, right? Because it means that they have not had access or not felt comfortable, or maybe there's nothing there to really draw. Then there are others like resident in Ward 5 who says, hey, I go to the lakefront as a spiritual practice to be renewed and be refreshed. And so our lakefront is really much more than just, commerce or developments. It's really a place that we believe, and I believe that is, it's essential that we think about Lake Erie as a stakeholder in itself, and that it is a place for all residents. So there were presenters that wove personal and historical stories around themes related to the lakefront and the water. This is the existing lakefront now, which is primarily parking lots. And then this is the visual from the 60% and moving into the finalization of the master plan. So a lot of their work actually included some of the engineering and looking at how to actually make this work. So you'll see that they did some structural assessments. There was a cost estimation done here, as well as thinking through some of the logistics of how to make this happen. And these are just images. I don't need to necessarily explain them too much, but ideating around how do we make sure that all Clevelanders really see themselves at the lakefront and make it an all-season place for all people, all ages, and a really just world-class place for Cleveland. So that's it for the presentation. I'm happy to answer any more questions.
Thank you. So, Director, this group these are renderings that the group has already put together for that for that lakefront area.
That's right.
So we are we're in a deficit with this group in terms of money.
That's right.
And how much is this $400,000 going to pay our balance owed?
So the balance owed would be the 260, which was appropriated or suggested as appropriated in 2023.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the 140th would be to add on shorter core.
It would be to add on some additional services related to concepts and scenario planning. So we did encounter some things we need to work out throughout the process that we need to address just through some scenario planning.
Okay. As presented to me that you were asking for the amendments to increase the dollar amount and for the services, because in case some things don't go the way that folks want them to go with the lakefront, that there are some sort of concepts that exist. But it looked like to me that work has already been done, right?
To what you're referring to, no, that would be an additional service.
So this, what I'm looking at, is not.
That is work done 2023. There's two parts to the financial request.
So what else work, Director, planning would need to go in if a big tenant is no longer there? I mean, you would just look at a piece of that, just that area, right? Since you have everything on around it is already drafted. You follow me?
I believe so. So the idea is, going back to how do we make sure that this is a lakefront for all Clevelanders? That's the baseline, right? Regardless of what happens in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. And you are Director. Now you want to add in shorter core.
That was also part of the work that was done in 2023.
Oh, they already did?
Yeah, they did a small amount for the shorter core as well, yeah.
And we want to, so the 140 for new work does not include shorter core.
Yep.
That's for previous work already done.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what would have happened if we said no to the increase? And you all exceeded the contract already. So it's just assumed that this body is going to say, okay, yeah, go ahead, right?
That's why the request is before you. It's an opportunity for you to evaluate the work done. And
what if I say no? Then what happens? What would you all do then? I'm just curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that as we support these consultant services and these RFPs that we really have a discussion with this body before we begin, or we know we are going to exceed a contract dollar amount,
Yep.
and not just assume that we are going to say, okay, yes, then we'll support the contract request.
To the chair, yes, this is a unique situation.
Yeah.
Most of the time, when we have a not to exceed, we say, this is a not to exceed, and this is done, but this is a very complicated major project.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. But again, I think it's still that even more so warrants a conversation with
Sure.
this body.
Yep.
If we know, in fact, that we're going to need additional dollars, and we are approaching not exceed, I think it's only right that you all have a conversation with this body about potentials of exceeding a contract, and not just assume, especially when this piece has no not to exceed dollar amount, and that it was chosen to go with a period versus a dollar amount, which I don't know, and maybe my other colleagues can share with me that we've done this before. But every one of these pieces I've seen had a not to exceed number, and I'm thankful that Councilman McCormick was a part of the selection process, and he's been involved in this, right? That we have had some member of this body be a part of the conversation along the way. But from finance, from top to bottom, folks on administration, really, you all should really come and have a conversation with leadership and the chair here when especially with, big issues and very complex issues like this. This is important work, right? That we should not be brought in on the back end when you all believe that some changes need to be made, or you're all approaching a dollar amount that you're going to blow through.
Yep.
All right. And again, Councilman McCormick, thank you for your involvement in this and kind of keeping a watchful eye on just the process of everything that's been happening. Any questions with the committee? Councilman Jones.
Mr. Chairman, certainly I appreciate, let me start with this, I appreciate the work that the director does. And I look forward to having the opportunity, as you have suggested, letting us know on the front end. So where, Mr. Chairman, could I sit? What committee can I sit on to be there? Is there somewhere I can sit? Because I'd like to participate.
Do you have like some planning groups and some other?
So related to this particular project?
Yes.
So we have many advisory groups, of which council has representation. So there are council members who act as
I
co-chairs.
would like to sit on. I ain't talking about nobody else.
I will take in the feedback
Mr. Chairman,
and see that there are opportunities.
I ain't talking about nobody else. I want to be able to sit here. I'm a citizen in this city for all my life. And, I agree with what he's saying, that it comes back to us and we don't really know what's there, don't have any input. So, and that's where I would like to take this, Mr. Chairman. Is there a committee, Mr. Chairman, on the subject matter of me being able to participate?
To the chair, there are advisory committees. There are actually 5 or 6 that have been established by the Greater Cleveland Partnership, for which we've had people participate, including council, and we can.
Chair,
Yes.
I have a point.
Yes, Councilman McCormick.
Councilman Jones, may I have a point?
Yes.
Chair, if I could request the director, can you send over that chart of all those committees so Councilman Jones can review it and see which he feels
Happy
he'd like
to.
to? Thank you.
I can do that. Thank you. Good suggestion.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. To my colleague, Mr. McCormick, to the director. Looking at this is just amending this contract, the original contract, to change the name. That's part of it, correct? And why are we changing the name, if I may ask, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
To the chair, to the council members, so the firm itself, James Corner Field Operations, changed their partnership internally. So now instead of it being James Corner, who's the founder, it is now Field Operations LLC, and their principals are now all the partners of that particular firm. So because in the contract it talks about James Corner Field Operations, we can't execute payments unless we change it to Field Operations LLC in the contract itself.
Okay. And so basically, the additional work you'd like to see here, you want to have community engagement meetings? How many community engagement meetings would you have?
Right, so that was already a part of the work accomplished. The new work would be scenario planning and concept planning.
It would be what again?
Scenario planning and concept planning for the lakefront. So there are a few details that we need to tweak and refine, and things continue to change through the planning process as we learn more information. And so scenario planning looks at different scenarios on the lakefront
It's different looks,
to design.
so
It's different looks,
conceptual
yeah.
drafts and scenario planning. So when you say that, are you saying that we have the drawings that's in front of us, Mr. Chairman, and what we have now, but you'll be trying to come up with some other different kinds of concepts and ideas as well?
To the chair, yes, that is correct. So we will build on the work that's been done and refine and as well as explore some concepts further. Thank you.
I see. And then I have a question. Did the administration ever think about all of that land that's on the other side that the Port Authority has, being able to acquire that and have a bigger system in place?
To the councilman through the chair, that is a long-term lease that the Port Authority does have with the City of Cleveland. And because of how essential their operations are to our economic growth, I believe it was explored and discussed maybe in 2004 when the first waterfront plan through then Director Ronayne, but there was no conclusion to change or adjust the location of the Port Authority.
Right, because I know that where we're at right now, it seems like in the new plan, you're taking over some of that space that it appeared to be. Is that Port Authority, or was that always Cleveland?
The area that the study looked at was the edge, kind of where the cruise ships come in on this side. So this, 40 or so acres right behind us with the Rock Hall, the stadium, and then it also includes the North Coast Harbor.
Would that be this right here? This is what I'm looking at right here. Is that all of this land here?
That is all of that land. That's correct.
So that's what you're going to be developing, correct?
That's correct, and that's what the images that I showed are referring to.
And see, what I was thinking about was this territory over here to the side as well.
That is the Port Authorities. There is a little section that is, I think, a parking lot that could be redeveloped into a building, but the area that you were pointing to that is west of the cruise ships coming in and that West 3rd Street area, that is all Port Authorities long-term lease.
Well, Mr.
And their
Chairman,
land.
So the extra money is going to come up to about so right now you're going to spend about $384,000 of what you're asking for, correct? And you're going to have like some change left over?
The total request that I'm requesting is $400,000.
Right. And is that, are you, and that, of that 400,000 round off figure, you've already spent 124,000 of it, correct?
So I'm sorry, I hear your confusion. So there was work already done in 2023. We overspent the contract. We overspent the original contract by 260,000, and that also included some of the shore work. So that's 260 out of 400. I'm also requesting additional 140,000 for additional services related to the lakefront.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to our distinguished Commissioner of Planning.
Got it.
Did you get it?
Thank you. So just so we're clear, the original contract was $500K. They overspent that contract. They're coming back to amend the initial piece that we already passed for them. They're asking for $400,000 on the amendment so they can pay a balance that they owe because they overspent without talking to us, right? And they're asking for additional $140,000 to do some additional work opposite of the overspending amount. So they want to do some concept scenarios. So we're going to be at $900,000 in altogether.
Yes.
We'll be at 900. 500 was already spent. Well, over 500 and a little bit over. 500 plus the 260. 760 was over. It was overspent by 260. So that's 760. The remainder of the 900 total, from the 5 and the 4, would be 140. That's for additional work like
The scenario planning.
the scenario planning and some other things that they would like to do. My concern is that I don't want this to continue as a money pit. Like, I get we need to plan and do some things, but looking at the way this has gone already, 500, now we're back for 4 because we want to, this didn't work, we want to do that. We should have added this, that we continue down this line and we just keep adding, then like, when does it stop, right? And I get all great work, but what I'm looking at here, plus some additional scenario planning, I think that hopefully that we should be, where we want to be in case whatever happens with whomever's on the waterfront, or the lakefront rather. All right, Councilman McCormick, before
Thank you,
Councilman
Chair.
Harsh.
Yeah, just a point. Is there a reason why we wouldn't have, if the requester is $400,000, a not to exceed added, and then if the director comes back and says, hey, we want to do another X, Y, Z and make the case to council. I mean, to me, I support, the project and all of the great work that's gone on. I'm just saying, just from an oversight perspective, is there a reason we wouldn't do that?
It's always been in there.
Okay.
Should
I'm
be
just
in
saying,
there.
just from a good government.
It should be, you're right. No, you're right.
That's right, and again, that's why, I was asking the question why they didn't have that in the beginning, but got you, loud and clear. Councilman Harsh.
Mr. Chairman, to borrow a phrase from Councilman Jones, I have some unreadiness. What does not to exceed mean if they can just exceed it and come back and expect to get paid for amount they exceeded on a not to exceed contract? What's the point of putting not to exceed in there if it doesn't actually have teeth?
The first one did not have not to exceed.
It did not.
The contract had not to exceed.
not our
Not the legislation.
The contract had not to exceed, but not the legislation. So they exceeded the contract because the legislation did not specifically say not to exceed.
The law department shaking his head.
Is that correct?
Is the law department shaking their head?
Law director.
I've been at a number of public institutions in my career, and this issue happens. And typically, in this type of scenario, I'd always advise my client to tell these vendors that if there's a not to exceed amount over there, if they spend $1 over it, we can't pay that until it's authorized. So that's what we're here doing today.
Yeah. Mr.
So
Chair.
we have, just to clarify, we have not paid over $500,000. I'm here to request additional funds to the contract in order to amend the contract.
But you had them do
we
the
have
work, though,
bills.
Director, already, expecting us to say yes.
Mr. Chair, to the director, these are subcontractors. These are outside agencies. How many agencies are working on this particular contract that started at 500 and now is looking to go up to 900,000? How many agencies are we talking about?
So field operations is the prime for the master plan, and then there are, let me think about this. Robert P. Madison International is one of the subs. They have a civil engineering sub named Durham, and then HRNA, which is the economic development firm. That is the sub, but this work would, they're not going to bring the whole band together for
Was that four?
That was four. Yep.
That was four. And through the chair to the director, is that the total? Is that 4 agencies have worked on this part of this contract? And through the chair, who went over the amount and you're trying to?
So
make
field
whole?
Operations put in a lot of effort into this particular project.
I'm
so
sorry, through the chair.
it is
Field operation is the name of the firm?
the primary firm, yes.
Oh, okay. Field operation?
At the administration request.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, I understand they changed the name of their organization and we have to amend the contract to reflect their new name change. I don't think anybody has any concerns about that. That's fairly, what's the word, clerical.
Yep.
I do have concerns. I mean, this seems like the work that was done gives us everybody a ballpark figure of what we're looking at and what people are thinking about. And of course, the plan is going to change this year. It's going to change next year. It's going to change the year after. It's going to change mid-construction. It's going to change. This will change many, many times between now and completion date. And I don't know that we need to pay for every thought that gets changed in the process. Like, I'm not sure what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. And it seems to me that, this is how ideas snowball. And I do have grave concern about that, Mr. Chair, and I am uncomfortable with approving this. I don't know what the solution is. I understand that there was a legislative T that didn't get crossed where we put not to exceed in the contract, but not the legislation. That's probably on us, and we need to do a better job of making sure we don't let that slip through, because it seems like we had conflicting instructions to the administration, who then ran with the conflict, and here we are today trying to resolve the conflict, which is something we probably should have prevented. But I'm not sure how you want to proceed, Mr. Chair, but I'm not comfortable, allocating more funds to this project when we have renderings and concepts, and they're clearly going to change again a few more times between now and completion. Why we're going to pay for every single change? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
what that price tag to the taxpayers is.
Gotcha. Thank you, Councilman Harsh. Yeah, I mean, I have some reservations as well, but I'm a little concerned because, unfortunately, the administration's already asked this group to do this work, and they provided the work for us. The question becomes whether we say, hey, that's on you all. You all shouldn't have went over this contract without seeking, with just assuming that this body was going to support. That's one way. Or we can, swallow swallow the issue and, pay these folks at corners or field operations what's owed to them, and not support an additional 140. That's an option, and for them to come back to us if that's the case. Or we just add a not to exceed $400,000, now, and then look at some stronger language before finance to make sure that, we don't run into this issue again. I know there's a need. We really, because of everything that's going on, we need to make sure that we have some really concrete plans in place, right? Depending on who goes where, who does what. But I also understand that we don't want this to continue to be a money pit, and we just continue to throw dollars into this. And so what I would tell you, I'm inclined to support, as Councilman McCormick indicated, and as I was thinking as well, a not to exceed of $400,000, right? And then between now and finance, that we add additional language that maybe at a certain, usage point that you come back to us, let us know, so that way you don't get to 120% of the contract. You're like, we're past that, But as we expect others to monitor and control spending when we have contracts with them, right? Or they have contracts with us, vice versa. That we should also do the same when it's a project that we are leading as well. That we need to monitor and control our spending. As well. All right.
May I respond?
Yes.
So I am satisfied with that as a checkpoint. I hope this is the exception than the rule, right? Most contracts, when we hit not to exceed, we say that's it. This is just a unique situation where there was a lot of work, a lot of moving parts. And so I hope that you feel confident that this is a unique situation rather than the norm. But what you've proposed is totally fine by me. Thank you.
I hear you. We just, and because this is so unique and so different, so special, that I would think that at the very least that even with our representative McCormick or others who are part of this process that are notified to say, hey, we need to do some other things. Things are changing. We know we had this dollar amount, but we really want to be able to go over, let's have that conversation and not wait until we've already done that and come back to us and expecting us to pull you all out of a hole, right? This is the last time, and it comes to DPS, that we're going to do this, all right? Understood. So we need to make sure we tighten up. All right, Councilman Jones, and then McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield to my colleague, Mr. McCormick, then I'll take the floor.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm
happy to propose an amendment, but I'll do it at your discretion.
Once they're done, you can do it.
After Councilman Jones?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the director, I get, how it is when you have a situation and your people go over, and but I will certainly yield to what the chairman is suggesting, that we don't do that no more. I would presume, Mr. Chairman, are you the person that would be holding them to account to stay within the budget?
Yes.
And can I don't want to try to rehash any drama or anything, but how did they go over by 260,000?
Well, I will say that, again, kind of going back to the format, typically you have a master planning process and then an engineering process that follows. Here we had the $5 million capital projects, roadway project, parallel ongoing at the same time as the master plan. And so there was a lot more design work and coordination that needed to happen between the actual design work of the roadway which we all want to be safe, pedestrian-friendly, bicycle-friendly. So they ended up spending more time on that by request to make sure that the project itself would actually reflect a complete and green street, that would reflect pedestrian-friendly intersections and crossings. So that was the request of the administration to make sure that they did provide their design input into that process. And then there were also other community engagement processes that ended up taking a little more time than originally anticipated. So that, among some other twists and turns around the process, that is part of why not to exceeds are challenging, but also understanding that this is a unique situation. This is not a normal project. This is a very major project that had a lot of twists and turns.
And then with this here project, because I went to a meeting and I saw something totally different than this plan here, and it's the same site location but different look. So are you working with anyone else to do anything?
No.
Have you had a chance to, Mr. Chairman, work with the Cleveland Browns?
I personally am not involved in many conversations with the Cleveland Browns.
Did you see their plan, Mr. Chairman?
The 2021 plan?
Yeah, that what they wanted to do there at the Lakefront?
Yes.
Is that the same what you want to do?
It is different. It is different because that was a vision put forward by the Haslam Sports Group. We wanted to go through a public process to plan the lakefront. So that 2021 vision is incorporated into the background analysis and the collection of plans that have gone through before. That was something that the Haslam Sports Group put forward as a vision.
So that's the Haslam's group, totally different from yours?
Totally different.
Do you have all that information, what they want to do? Do you have it?
We have the 2021 plan through the chair.
Did you have their plan?
Through the chair, the 2021 plan, we have that plan.
From the Haslams, Mr. Chairman, to the director, you have that plan?
We have whatever they have sent us. That's mostly the images that you and I have seen in the public.
I'd like to come and visit you and take a look at, because I did see their, Mr. Chairman, their plan really quickly. They ruffled me into the room to show me. And I really want to take some time to take a look at it. So I'd love to set up that time to be able to do that. Are you very familiar and versed with the plan?
I was not here in 2021, so I'm not familiar with the plan, but I know the images and I know generally their concept and their desire.
I see. So no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Jones, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking over to our Assistant Law Director, I don't know if it makes sense to create a new Section 4 or add it to Section 3, but the language would be that the cost of the amendment shall not exceed $400,000. So I don't know, again, new section under 3 or added to 3, whatever. Into 3? Okay, so that any additional appropriation shall not exceed $400,000.
Now, to see if any additional funds should be additional council.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that the cost of the amendment shall not exceed $400,000, and that any additional appropriation shall require additional legislative authority.
Yeah, second? All right, there's a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. All right, so no further questions. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, you know how I feel about you. I think you are an amazing director, and honestly, you call every time there's some type of development or planning in our neighborhood, and I appreciate that. One thing, and you know this, I've been vocal about the community engagement process, right? It was poor, I would say, and so I'm curious to know, are these additional dollars due to the lack of planning from, I think it's, what's the group called again? What the?
You're talking about FFI?
Yes, FFI.
They are not related to FFI's work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are any of these dollars through the chair director going to community engagement because they need it? additional numbers or to meet their metrics?
No, I will share that, metrics-wise, we have received 4,000 comments from the public, and we focused all over the city. We went to Dave's Markets. We had over, I think it was 300 surveys filled out. We spent a lot of time on the southeast side. We spent a lot of time at various festivals. And the reason why we ended up working with FFI is because we noticed that there were 2 wards that did not get as much outreach last year, which was Ward 14 and Ward 5. And so, there was an immense effort that went into community engagement that we're really proud of in 2023. I know that there was a little bit of a hiccup with the FFI outreach with Ward 14, and I do believe that it was worth the outreach, and that those 4,000 comments have now more comments, and 85% of the people that were participating in the FFI work do support the Lakefront work. But I hope that answers your question.
Yes. So they're not getting additional dollars?
No, because there's been a lot that they will work off of.
So maybe 2 requests through the chair to the director. Can we get like the results of those surveys? And I don't know if they're divided per area, per ward. And is it possible to get like an overall budget of how these dollars are being allocated? Yeah.
That's fine.
Before finance.
I'm happy to provide, you said the survey results from 2023, as well as FFI work, because that was kind of a separate effort.
Well, I would just say to the chair, I know Chris, or you went through all the organizations that are receiving dollars. So I would request how these dollars are being allocated to each of these organizations.
Okay, sure. And I can also provide for you, was the last thing you requested, it was the budget. Budget for the dollars, yes. I can do that.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Yield.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Titron, we have those requests? Yes. All right, and so we want to make sure we get those before we go to finance.
I will. And just for the record, I will be out of town for the American Planning Association conference, so Chief Abunama will be taking my place for that finance.
I think he can handle it.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, thank you. See no further questions. Ordinance number 1337 as amended stands approved. Here you go. Last ordinance.
All right, here we go.
We won't be here for another hour, okay? Ordinance number 341-2024 by council members McCormick, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of City Planning to accept a grant from the Project for Public Spaces for West 29th Street Open Street Program, determine the method of making the public improvements of installing one or more pedestrian plazas along West 29th Street, authorizing Director of City Planning or appropriate director to enter into one or more public improvement contracts, authorizing other contracts, and applying for and accepting gifts, grants, or services from public and private entities needed to implement the grant. All right, Director.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a presentation on the screen, too.
We do. And this is one where we are getting money. So we're getting money from a grant from the National Organization Project for Public Spaces. From day one, we've been really interested as an administration in thinking about how to utilize our greatest network of public spaces. So our greatest network of public spaces actually are public right-of-ways, our streets. And this is an opportunity to turn a very active area into streets for people. And so, I've been working closely with Callie Mersman, who's the mayor's transit and mobility senior strategist. We've been working with traffic engineering. We've been working with Councilman McCormack and others to think about where are some locations that we can, pilot or implement open streets. And so this is a grant opportunity that popped up last fall, brought to my attention in October. We got an application in by November, and kind of just saying, hey, we're going to give it a shot. Turns out we are the recipient of that award. So award announcements were February 7th, 2024. You might have seen it in the news that Project for Public Spaces selected Cleveland 2 times out of 5 awards. So this one is one of the awards. Downtown Cleveland, Inc. is getting an award for Public Square, and then there were 3 other cities that got awards. So this is a really big deal for us, and we're really excited. So what is this grant? excuse me, let me go back. The grant itself allows for awards up to $100,000 for physical improvements and programming to transform public spaces or co-create new ones. For some time, there's been some discussion with the stakeholders in this area on West 29th Street about an open street concept. And so when we applied, we had 9 letters of support, namely from this section that you're looking at from Church to Clinton. That's a short block. And the property owners and the tenants already have been doing open street activations, family days, kid-friendly stuff. So they all supported it, and we won the award. These are inspiration images that show different examples of what open streets can look like. You know, countries around the world are really starting to do this, as well as cities in the US. And these images are not any designs for West 29th Street. These are just ideas. There have been no designs yet for West 29th Street. But you can see, you know, open streets concepts provide concepts for day to night activity. It provides playful elements for seating, planters, and colorful streets. Provides for non-motorized transportation like walking, biking, and scooters. So you can even see some of them include bike lanes, just not car transportation. And then the bottom right is Broadway Avenue in New York City, very, very busy street on Manhattan. And you can see how they transformed it into a plaza for pedestrians, as well as the green bike lane that you see cutting through. So no more cars go through there. It's just people walking. It's very active and very fun. Part of our concept is that we want to focus on people of all ages. So I'm very passionate myself about kid-friendly urban neighborhoods. And, you know, it's my personal goal to create that kind of child-friendly environment in our city. And this doesn't just mean playgrounds. We know we have to do better with our parks and recreation, but a major part of children's development is their ability to go somewhere semi-independently, right? So they can travel by scooter or by foot to school or to down their street in the neighborhood. We used to see kids play in the street all the time. That doesn't happen anymore because people are driving faster and there's not that many spaces for kids. So, you know, while, you know, the whole thing isn't just about kids, I think that is one idea that, you know, really want to begin to promote, is that we want to create spaces for all ages. So this is an opportunity for demonstration that can be replicated around Cleveland. We haven't really seen something quite like this before, and so we're really excited about testing it out and working with the stakeholders. I don't know why the last slide isn't showing up, but this is our engagement process. So to be clear, no designs have been designed. We did some early engagement in March 2024 with some of the Block Club members who expressed some concerns and questions. You know, since then, we kind of are on the same page. Like, there is a community engagement process. There are no designs. We will co-create those together. So next week, there's actually going to be a workshop next Saturday and some focus groups. May to June, we'll do the programming and concept and design iteration that will be supported by Project for Public Spaces. And then the funds will actually be dispersed in July. So that's when we'd actually receive the $100,000. And then the implementation and technical assistance would go from July to October. In terms of the funds breakdown, Project for Public Spaces will be guiding a lot of the discussions. What we're seeking in the grant is to, you know, be able to hire a designer if needed, to hire a group to do programming or to support funds for programming, as well as to purchase the materials for implementation through the bid process. And you'll see in the legislation that we've also talked about the community engagement process. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. So do you expect to do any of these other projects for public spaces throughout the city of Cleveland? Is this your first one?
This is our first one.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. And, you know, the idea is we've identified several places, kind of starting with the downtown core area, that we can do some open streets, and we're beginning to brainstorm other places, east side, west side, that we could do it. Not quite baked yet, but, you know, we're marinating. So.
Okay. Because I can just picture some areas on the both east and west that I think that this will work in neighborhoods. These are the type of like placemaking ideas that can spark, you know, engagement in neighborhoods, or just, you know, people wanting to be more involved in their community when they see small initiatives like this happening in their communities. And I'm thinking of just also areas of the city where we've seen like TLCI studies done, you know, where, you know, there could be some implementation of these projects for public spaces done in those areas. Like even in Euclid Green, Euclid Avenue was done. I think areas over there. I'm thinking place on Councilwoman Santana's ward. Old Brooklyn's always a great candidate.
Yep.
You know.
Well, I'm all ears. I am very excited.
Lee
I have
Harbert,
some,
yeah.
some good ideas. One thing that we'll be mindful of is we can't pick any places that RTA goes down because we can't. Well, I guess we could allow buses to go through, but it's hard to actually shut down a street when we have RTA. But that's something we can discuss, and I'm very interested in identifying as many of these as we can. So.
Yeah, and even not those main streets that I'm thinking of, just like streets off of those mains.
Yeah.
Because when you do TOCIs, they don't look at just the main; they look at some of the other, intersecting streets or other areas around.
Great.
Councilman Jones and then Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just thought that this was, certainly I support any money coming into the city of Cleveland. Great that we applied for it. Now, this here is a number of awards that came to Cleveland you talked about. We had received other.
So Downtown Cleveland, Inc. was the other recipient, so not the city itself.
Okay, so downtown.
Downtown Cleveland, Inc. received
Okay,
one,
so did they receive these grants because of their geographical location or where they were located? How did it just was
it's a great question
happenstance?
through the chair. I don't know their matrix for how they selected different areas, but certainly they were looking for areas that are just exciting areas in the cities. And, I think a big thing that helped support this was that there was a lot of support. There were 9 letters of support from the property owners and the tenants, as well as the councilmen. So.
And who is that from? Who's the grant from again?
Project for Public Spaces. They're a national organization.
Okay.
Yep.
And looking Project for Public Spaces, and looking at the slide that you have with the different looks on there, was just I would presume, just to give our imaginations that this may be what it might potentially. But we're not talking about doing really any of that kind of stuff up there on that board, are we? Because
That's correct.
Like it would cost money.
So that's correct. Those would be inspiration images only.
Okay.
$100,000 can only take you so far.
Yeah. So I'm looking at that. And that leads me to this question. So we received $100,000 to spruce it up, hopefully. Will the city match it with doing anything to try to help it come to a different, to really give, because you set me down here and you inspired me by the photos.
Okay, good.
All right. So the concept would be creating an ambiance for the neighborhood. And I really got into I thought about some places in the neighborhood where we could create that kind of atmosphere. What would something like some of this at the low end would cost us if we did that? Maybe $400,000 or $500,000 maybe?
That's a great question through the chair to the council person. So it really depends. I know that's not a great answer, but $100,000 will get you to like an intermediate level, right? So something that's not going to last 10 years, but maybe 3 years. And that hopefully should inspire a more permanent capital investment. You can do a lot with $500,000. If you're going to go real fancy, probably a few million, right? So I think part of this is to say, let's use $100,000 to inspire and see how people use it and have it up for some time. But true capital investment is going to be costly.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Chairman, I have no unreadiness. I would love to work with the director with any kind of grants possible. I'm open to, there's some areas in the neighborhood where we would love to get some murals on there to spruce up and maybe even talk a little bit about some of this. Maybe if I could sit down with you and see what that looks like, because we got to set the tone when you come into our neighborhood that you're entering Cleveland, but it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yep.
So, and with that, that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the director's presentation.
Councilwoman Santana?
Sharing. I know you don't like germs, but through the chair to the director. So it's funny that you bring this up. So yesterday I was spending money in McCormick's ward, and I was on West 26, the Latina-owned business. But once people know you're a council person, they bring you all the complaints, right? So, of course, I have a lot of those that I got to give to McCormick. But essentially, it was they were trying to create a shared space on West 26th, which is off of West 25th area by the market area. And so the problem that they were having was like people were drinking and then crossing over to another bar or another restaurant, thinking just because you guys had the planners there that it was a shared space.
Yeah, I
that
see what you're
you
going,
could-
yep.
Yes, and so I guess she was asking, what does the city have in place now? And I don't think, now I know there was nothing in place. So I just want to advocate for McCormick's area and say that maybe West 26 would be the perfect area to be maybe something that you plan for that street. And I know that business owners would be very happy. I mean, I was even able to take my dogs. Everyone had their dogs on there, and it was the best experience. I actually walked to West 25th, and I grew up in that area. I had not walked to West 25th, that corner, since I was a child. It was nostalgic, like but it all started by being able to be in that space where everyone was walking and not a lot of cars were passing by. So just wanted to put that on there, if you could put West 26th Street.
Sure.
And yeah, my area is not ready for it, so give it a few years and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, I second Councilman Santana's the Market Avenue, working together to figure out how we really activate that street. I'll just say as a general concept, it's amazing what happens when you don't have 5,000-pound metal boxes known as cars flying up and down a street, because people feel safe to walk outside, safe to linger, safe to have conversations, bring their dogs or whatever. It's really incredible, and we've seen that in Market Ave. I think, to Councilman's point, maintaining, placemaking and programming is super important as well. And that's actually, well, anyways, I won't get into that. So it's actually city parkland, that road, which we found out. So, Chair, I support this legislation. As the director noted, I've got feedback from residents who are very concerned about this. I've also got feedback from families that live 2 doors down that are so excited about this. So I think what's really going to be important here is that we continue to have open dialogue in the community, as the director is committed to, so that folks are not only, we don't only create a space for them, but truly take their feedback as these conversations continue. And so again, I think that this is one of those things where, deep and important community engagement is going to be really important. So I know the director is familiar with that, but that's really, I think, the stage we're at, Mr. Chairman, is working with the community to kind of figure out what, this looks like. So appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, Councilman. I'm going to go to Councilman Harsh.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I feel like the Grinch today because I have some unreadiness. And not against the project. I think the project is very interesting, and shutting down the streets is very interesting, and building family-friendly spaces in our cities is a noble goal, and I like that idea. But I do have some questions, Mr. Chair, because this is a 5-page, 15-section, $100,000 grant. And normally these are 2 pages, 3 sections, and they're very simple. So reading through this, I have some concerns, Mr. Chairman, because again, the director would have complete control over the $100,000, and that seems appropriate. I have no concerns about that. But in section 14, it ends with talking about the sources of the funds. It says the cost of the contract or contracts or payments authorized by this ordinance shall be paid from the fund or funds, which are credited the grant proceeds accepted under this ordinance, comma, from the funds or funds to which are credited other gifts or grants accepted from other entities, which are not mentioned, comma, and from any other funds approved by the Director of Finance. And that, to me, seems like we're opening up a can of worms, that now this is not just the $100,000 that we're authorizing the Director to accept, but we're authorizing the Director to also spend any other funds approved by the Director of Finance. And that seems like a gross overstep, and something that I would hope was an error, or maybe I'm reading it wrong, but seems like language that is not tight enough, having just gone through this issue on another piece of legislation. So I would ask that we can amend this to include something that addresses any funds other than the $100,000 being sought shall be require legislative approval.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah,
to the
Mr.
chair?
Chair or whoever.
That's fine.
So this is about so let's just say a foundation wants to make a match, right? This is not regarding city funds that we oversee. It would be accepting funds from a foundation who might want to match the 100K or provide other funds, right?
Okay, so through Mr. Chair to the director, I understand the legislative authority to spend grant funds that are received by your department for this purpose. And I understand any matching funds that might come in as a result of this. But I think we would want to put something in there, Mr. Chair, about other city funds. And the way it's worded in Section 14, it seems like the Director of Finance could just give the Director Wong access to any other fund they felt like.
Sure.
And that seems inappropriate.
And just on that, just a really quick point, even if there's other entities who want to put in on this, if they want to give the city of Cleveland a grant award, you have to come to us and we have to accept that as well, right?
Depends on what the legislation says. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is normally when we approve grants, it's 2 pages, 3 sections. It's where we're approving a department to accept a grant for whatever purpose, and it's very short. This is this is a lot of sections, and most of it pertains to the Director Wong having the authority to spend the funds that are appropriate for the goal of that. But and I guess I don't have any objections to that. I mean. But there's some open ends here that I would like to close.
Chair?
Sure.
I think I fully support what the councilman's saying, and maybe we can add language saying any city funding shall require additional legislative authority, or, yeah, I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, and if other people want to chip in on this pot and throw, money at this idea, then that sounds wonderful, and I'm happy. I don't think I've ever voted no on accepting grants, but I don't know if that's in a section amendment that we make right now. So, Mr. Chair, I'd move to amend Section 14 to add a final sentence. Who's got the language?
Well, you don't have to be exact. Law department can.
Oh, okay.
Clean it up.
Any funds. All city funds shall require further legislative approval. I don't know. Any funds not related to grants covered under this legislation shall require further legislative approval?
So any funds, doesn't matter if it's city funds or not. If it's not grant funds, you want additional legislative authority?
I think that's the idea. Like, they're going to get matching grant funds to this, then cool, roll with it.
Fine.
Any city funds.
City funds? Okay.
City funds.
Move forward, right? If it's a grant, we should let it move forward.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it should, because we have 2 problems, right? We have the in Section 14, and then we have in the body of the piece to be contradictory, so we have to address that location too. And that is Section 6, where it gives authority to the director to employ one or more contracts with consultants and or more firms or consultants for the purpose of supplementing revenue.
Well, that would be under the $100,000 grant.
Right. I read that section, Mr. Chair, as being the spending of the grant itself.
Yeah, so this is allowing that Section 5. What we're doing is allowing her the ability to do just that, to accept this $100,000 grant to do this work. What we're saying is that in the Section 14, we have no problem with the accepting the grant, that any other city funds, shall be approved by this body. Should require further, authorization from the council. Correct.
Should be approved by the city.
Correct. City funds, correct. All right.
And
Or on the grants. Are you accepting and approving another grant that can come in for the grant?
And frankly, Mr. Chair, to the councilman's point, we should probably be aware of what those grant funds are. I mean, typically grants come in one at a time. Do we accept this grant? We say, yes, accept this grant for this purpose. This is like a grant with other grants attached to it that we don't know about that might show up later. I think it would be appropriate for us to know what those grant amounts are, where they're coming from, even if we're giving the director authority to spend those monies.
Sorry, no problem.
It just seems like a very open-ended.
So
Long
I
and
will say-
winding
I will
road is
say-
what I wanna say.
So I'll say, first of all, it's very long because it gives me the authority to do several things, including buy supplies, which it has its own section about bidding and everything. So the length of it is unusual because I wanted to make sure that this was a very holistic piece to allow us to do the whole project this year. But to your point about the grants, I mean, if you're comfortable allowing me the authority to accept grants, that way we can just implement the project. I'm happy to report out if that's something you want.
Do a
with
reporting
halfway-
requirement.
I would add an amendment for a reporting requirement.
Yeah, that's
That would be my preference.
Yeah, we just report requirement. We don't need to, they don't need to come back here for additional grant, you know.
Pertaining to this specific project.
Correct.
It's this project, yeah.
Right.
That's it.
It's not blanket approval to accept all grant funds as they come towards you.
No.
Right.
It's just for-
Right.
It's just for West 29th Street.
And I just want to make sure that we have limiting language in there, because we just had a problem earlier today where we didn't have limiting language in place, and it led to confusion. So
Yeah.
let's make sure that we're drawing our parameters.
All right, so we got one amendment here. Was there a second to the amendment for the city funds? Second by
Mr.
Councilman Joe
Chairman.
Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that amendment is passed. And then Councilman McCormick, reporting. You'll do that separately.
Reporting.
The reporting.
Oh,
of
yeah,
any
just,
additional grants.
thank you, Chair. Move to amend, what's the number on this one? 341, 2024, to require that council be notified through the clerk and to members of any additional grants received under this ordinance.
Yes.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Councilman Joe Jones. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Seeing no further discussions, ordinance number 341-2024 as amended, in addition to file number 341-2024A, stands approved. All right. Thank you.
Cool.
Appreciate everybody's time.
We saved
We're
the best
adjourned.
for last.